Council, what is your pleasure? Would you like me to hold for Karen? I do believe she plans to attend tonight.
Just get going.
Get going?
Yeah. It's her responsibility. She'll have to catch it.
Okay, Summer, are we good? Today is January 28, 2020. We are at having our regular city council meeting. It is 7 p.m. On our agenda, we are on number 1. Actually, we're number 2. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, I caught you.
This chair is like a bumper car today.
Okay, we are now on to mayor and council reports. It's been a fun 2 weeks. I'll get us started. I do look forward to going through our boards list later tonight, just so that we know where we are to be reporting upon. Welcome, Karen. Let's see. Other than regular old meetings, I attended a water quality board meeting. The water quality board is looking to support water positive agricultural practices. There are several bills that they are watching this session that I'm following along with them. One important note that I wanted to share with everybody is that gray water rule that we've been talking about. It's still out for public comment, and it will be coming back to our board in March for final rule. So that means as of our March meeting, we'll have a definitive answer on the gray water so that we know how to address our gray water standards with everything that we're working on. And the other really exciting thing that the state of Utah, it's a bill that they've put forward for this legislative session, is this idea about water banking. And so what that means is if you have locally Ken's Lake irrigation share, and you don't want to use it, oh thanks Mike, so you don't necessarily want to use it, but you use it because you don't want to lose it, and that's the Utah rule. This allows you the opportunity to lease it out and put it back into the stream. So you know how Mill Creek runs dry in the hot summer months? This would enable those who don't use that irrigation water to actually dedicate it back to the stream. And it's all about securing the in-stream flow. So the state is looking at doing that. We locally have an opportunity to do that. Nathan is our water lawyer, is that correct?
Yeah.
Jeff works with Nathan, that's right. But they say it's relatively easy for us to implement that here. So that's very exciting. It's legislation that I'm going to follow, and I'll report back to you about because it could really be a thing that we implement in the coming months.
And Jeff has water banked in other cities as well, like he's very familiar with it, and I've participated in it as well.
Yeah, and the thing about the legislation is that it set pilot cities to do this water banking. We're not one of them, but ours is so much easier.
Yeah, the leasing was the new aspect to it.
Right, so it's really exciting, really exciting. I also attended a Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments meeting. Reminder to each of you and the community that there is money to borrow. So if you know anybody that is starting a small business or running a small business and just needs some cash, the revolving loan fund with the Association of Local Governments has money to lend. If we don't lend it, then we lose it. They're a little more flexible because it's more local underwriting than a traditional bank loan. Another hot topic that's been going around for a few months now is the San Juan Health Service Special the San Juan Health Service District's application for a Spanish Valley Health Clinic. And I think we've all heard rumblings about it. I just wanted to report to you all that at our board meeting, we did review their CIB application. And at both this September and October meeting, I brought information to the table, concern from the community to the table. The application had a box that next to it said regional planning was had, and they checked that box. However, they did not really plan with our local hospital or our Canyonland Special Service District. So there's real concern about this application. When the application was forwarded from the AOG to the, I'm sorry, this is so technical for a report, but it's just, everyone's been talking about it. So when it was forwarded to the CIB, the information that was distributed or disseminated or deliberated on at our AOG meeting did not make it to the CIB board members in their packet and wasn't discussed at their meeting. So there's great concern. I wrote a letter of concern. There's a letter of concern from the Canyonland Special Service District. The hospital is actually going through it is called a, it's not an appeal, because that would be an easy word. It is a challenge, actually, a challenge to the application. So they're forwarding that, and it really prompted me and others to say we need a regional plan regarding business in this valley. Business as well as like hospital and medical in general, because we know in our valley that we've got needs like mental health, dialysis, and other things that don't make a lot of money and would truly appreciate that subsidy that would come through a CIB loan or grant. So as the EMS is benefiting from that. So I wanted to share that, and that I had a couple meetings with the CEO of the hospital, Jen Sadoff, to talk through this and really understand what her position was. I also attended a UDOT meeting, not about anything that's happening in the valley right now, but about this rail study that was funded. It was myself and the mayor of Helper and actually a council member from Price. The mayor wasn't able to attend. So we got together and we talked about the implications of a rail that would go from, a passenger rail that would go from Moab to Salt Lake. So UDOT's doing that feasibility right now. They wanted input from all of us. There were a series of options that they put in front of us. And so we're going to move forward with first thanking the Transportation Commission for the funding for the study, and the next steps to seeing about working with other stakeholders in the process, like Union Pacific and Amtrak. And one of the options, the one that I prefer, is the one that goes from, it's an independent train that goes from Moab to Salt Lake City. So we'll see. That was that meeting. You may have heard that I met with Kent Green and a group of people interested in talking about UTV noise in Moab. So after our last meeting, when we were talking with the lobbyists, a lot of dust was kicked up on social media. And sorry, this feels like kind of a long report, but I guess these were kind of big meetings that I wanted to report out on. Bud Bruning is the leader of UTV Utah. He came down with Ben Burr from the Blue Ribbon Coalition. Kent Green was there. I was there. Mary McGann showed up. Cliff Kuntz with Ride with Respect. Scott McFarland was there. And we really talked a lot about the noise. We also talked about if the noise wasn't an issue, we would still like to have a more coordinated effort regarding where the machines are going. And so we can address things like crosswalks and speed limits to make sure that we're doing what we can through our infrastructure to create, safer passage through our town. The outfitters that were there, oh, we also had Sergeant Boots. That was really helpful, as he comes from Sevier County and is, a UTV recreationist. So we put maps out, and I asked the vendors, the businessmen, to map the routes that they currently use to better inform us if we were going to do more signage and better crosswalks, what would those routes be? We also talked about a curfew, a suggested curfew that we can communicate to that user group to match the curfew that's in Sand Flats, and encourage people not to drive their OHVs around town at night. And the final and most important and exciting thing was that the meeting concluded with all of us saying, hey, we're on the same team, and we all want to deal with the noise. And so we are going to get organized, and we plan to, as a team, approach manufacturers about changing the way that they are manufacturing the machines. What's really exciting about that is that they are an unlikely partner, but I think that we've got laid a good groundwork for that partnership to really work on the noise. So we shall see, but I shall report out how that goes. And the other meeting that I went to was a Mill Creek Community Collaborative meeting where we're just having the ongoing conversations about getting organized around Mill Creek. That's it from me. Sorry, it was a little long.
I'm going to try not to go too long, but yes, probably everybody has meetings with good things. I went to my second ever System of Care Regional Advisory Council for Grand and San Juan counties. And just one of the things we discussed at that meeting was a grant that they're applying for multiple years, which will allow them to expand stabilization and mobile response capacity in the community. And I'll just explain what that is. Take a moment. Basically what they're trying to do is to help families who have children in their home who are having some kind of problem where to get the services they need, they might be forced to go outside the community, actually move or send the child to be with family in another community. And they're trying to figure out ways to have more services available here because all the studies show that kids do the best when they can stay in the home. So at any rate, one of the things that this would allow is to allow crisis teams to work with the family. And right now, some of the funding, the way it works, really limits the amount of time they can do that and the situations under which they could do it. But this would open it up to help families kind of define problems that they're having. One of the examples they gave was, you have a child who's refusing to go to bed or go to school, or they won't turn off their video games. And they say one of the important reasons that they need to be able to work with families on these is that they're kind of indicators that can escalate to a higher problem. And so the idea is that they can get in early with a team of people to help the family with their specific needs. It can really help with prevention. One of the problems they've been having with issues like this is being able to access some Medicaid funding. And so one of the things the grant would allow is a Medicaid waiver, which, if I understand properly, would allow the team to work with a family for 8 weeks, and they could engage as much as they needed. And also, right now, there is kind of a team available to help families in Grand and San Juan counties, but they can only work with 5 families, and that's all the capacity they have. So the grant would allow them to establish individual care manager, family peer support teams in San Juan, Grand, and Emory, and other rural communities in the states. And each team could then work with 10 families. So it would really expand the help that could be made. So at any rate, we worked with Grand County Council members to get a letter of support written for that. I went to a Southeast Utah riparian partnership meeting, and I won't get into it much here other than they just are doing some great work collectively. And one of the interesting things that we had to look at there was a chart, if anyone's interested, on different restoration efforts going on in the community on the county level, the work Tim Graham is doing, rim-to-rim restorations work, and BLM work, and some other documents people can reference. So that's really exciting. There's some, if anybody has questions later, I can tell you who to go to. And then we had our quarterly Moab Tailings Project Steering Committee meeting today. To date, 64% of the pile has moved. The bigwigs in Washington did pass a budget, so that allowed us to confirm that we did get our $45 million for the last cycle. So we're going to go and ask for at least that much again. So the chair, Mary McGann, and member Joette Langanese, and I are planning to go to Washington, D.C., February 24 to 28. So I was going to ask the council and the budget gurus if the county, in their money they have for Amtrak, can cover most of it, but they would ask if the city would be able to pay the per diem for me and one hotel night. I was just wondering, everybody here probably knows they can go tour the UMTRA site. I mean, people in the community can inquire about that too. But if there any kind of, if you guys would find it helpful maybe once a year to have Russ Von Koch, the liaison for UMTRA with the county, to come do some kind of presentation. I don't know if there are all kinds of things some of us find fun in these meetings, like we get to a presentation on how the dirt moves from point A to point B, but I don't know if those things excite you. But at any rate, think about it and let me know if any kind of presentations would be helpful. And other than that, there are 16 members of the steering committee. I don't know if this matters to any of you, but just so you know, we did update the bylaws and added some new representatives that seem to be missing on the steering committee, someone from the Solid Waste Special Service District, the health department, and then we had individuals for Crescent Junction and Thompson, but sometimes hard to get people who can come to meetings from those communities, so we consolidated those into one representative. And one last thing was, we did have a citizen to be heard today who had submitted a short video of dust blowing off the pile at Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to remind people, and we were reminded by staff at the site, if you have any concerns, if you see things there where you have questions, or if you want to alert them to something, like this was a holiday and I don't know if they knew, there is a phone number one can call. You can call the on-site manager, and I'll just state that number. It's on the sign at the site, but not many of us are driving by when we need the number, 970-361-8335. And then other than that, I'm just trying to catch up on email, and I think we'll talk about this later, but among the things I have many emails about are back-end parking and concerns from businesses about being updated more about what's happening with UDOT, so I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Thanks, Ronnie.
Mine's all about water. One clarification for you, Mayor, and for you guys. The reason the creek runs dry oftentimes in the middle of the summer in the daytime is that I'm on the board of the irrigation company, Moab Irrigation Company, and we make an effort to try to schedule people using water out of the pipes so that ideally they'd be sucking the same amount of water out of the pipe all the time, and if that were the case, then the creek would usually have some water left over. But what happens is people don't want to get up in the middle of the night despite our best efforts to encourage them to distribute it uniformly, because they want to go to bed, and many people don't have any valves or da-da-da-da-da. So what happens is people tend to water heavy in the daytime, and there's no water left to bypass back into the creek because it's all being used. But if you get up at midnight or 10 o'clock or something like that, you'll probably find out the water in the creek is back up. And so if somebody want to throw, $1 million at the 100 and some odd users in the city and help them put in a bunch of valves and control systems and all that, that would help. But right now, nobody has that $1 million. So but that's what's going on. So a couple other water notes. This is all about future long-term growth. Mark Stilson, the Southeast Utah Division of Water Rights guy, gave a really interesting talk about a week ago. And he presented some data that showed wells in the area back in the 1970s had dropped in their water levels, but they came up in the early 1980s because we had a lot of rain back then, and also that's when Ken Lake started running. And Ken Lake is a known artificial recharge source. And so it came up for that reason. And then since then, the water levels in the wells have been, by and large, steadily declining ever since. Okay, so the question is, how far down will they go? When will they stabilize and so forth? How much water is left in the reservoir and in our aquifer when they do stabilize? And some of those questions nobody knows yet, but the fact that Mark presented this data and talked about how the fact that we really are still focused on safe yield, how much we can't withdraw by state law more than is recharged every year. And trying to determine exactly what that number is the interesting part. And I will say that there's a guy, a hydrologist, Phil Gardner. He was one of the authors on the USGS study that's been published now this last year. And he's done some further work with stable isotope tracers. He's broken what we generally think of as being one big Glen Canyon aquifer and broken it into two groups based on where he sees the water going. And in the lower group, which is where we typically, the city and the county, get their water out of, he says that he thinks that we're presently withdrawing about what the safe yield for that aquifer is. And if that holds up, then that's a potential game changer, in my opinion. Anyway, we'll see. And I saw Chris Wilkowski, he's another hydrologist that works for the USGS. And I said, well, Chris, what's going on with Phil's paper? And he said, well, it's out for peer review, which is great. And I said, but he did add that he didn't think that the paper would change substantially in content. They were just cleaning it up for publication and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see when that report's finally released, because that will factor into the groundwater management plan. It's a big deal, because we're down to less than 4,000 acre feet, which is about what we're withdrawing now.
And did Mark Stilton, he believed that report would be done probably by the fall? Is that correct?
Oh, Phil Gardner's report?
No, the USGS report,
Which one?
the one that Mark Stilton was,
Referring to?
isn't that, shouldn't we sort of have a better idea come fall as to what the safe yield is going to be?
Come fall. Short answer is yes, somewhat better idea. Good enough idea to really try to make definitive conclusions about what we're doing, probably not by this fall. But we get started talking about it. The previous USGS report that we're familiar with lumped together all of the Valley Fill Aquifer and the Glen Canyon Aquifer, including the parts of the Glen Canyon Aquifer that we not necessarily use. And that number was more like 10 to 13,000 acre feet, something like that, which is a number that gave us some room to grow in. But whether that number will hold up in what we're actually using, that's the critical part.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Tanya?
Okay. I did not attend the museum meeting because I had the plague or beriberi or something. But the installation of the new exhibits should have begun on the 14th or 15th of January. That was in part contingent on the weather because they had to transport those from California, I do believe. The Paleontological Preparation Laboratory is going to be moved out to Moab Giants. And in order to do that, the museum had to sign a memorandum of agreement with Moab Giants, and they had to be certified that they would take care of those items and that they would store them properly, and that the lab and the materials were taken care of. So that was done. The museum got the $94,380 that they asked for, in addition to a $5,000 internal allocation for the utilities in the building. That's from the county's budget. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the Natural History Museum of Utah, in order to commemorate its 50th anniversary, is going to be placing markers in each county. And in conjunction with the Travel Council, they chose the sidewalk in front of the museum in part because the new exhibits at the museum will depict our history from the beginning of time, not just since Moab was incorporated. And I also attended the meeting with the mayor, with the tour directors, and it's okay, with the tour operators, and also Travel Council was there. That's who else was there. Yeah. It was a productive dialogue. I won't go over everything that the mayor did. I wanted to kind of touch on what she had said about a dust up on social media, and there was. And I found some of what was written about us as a council to be a bit of a mischaracterization, but I do understand that it came from people's hearts and from their passions, and I just think we all need to be a little bit cognizant about the words that we say and how we represent ourselves, so that we aren't mischaracterizing another group in a bad light. But overall, it was a really good meeting, and we broke a lot of ground and opened a lot of lines of communication. That was it.
Thanks, Tani.
Okay, so I participated with the mayor and chamber director and president for the 4th of July organization for the party. Is it, yes? And we're trying to figure out funding, if we can get funding for a band again, or if we'll use a local band. Perhaps try to get a sponsor for our portion of fireworks to free up some money for music. And then attended the chamber luncheon last week at Spring Hill Suites, and the guest speaker was Deanne Zibeline. She works for the federal government for the U.S. Census, and she spoke to businesses on informing employees on how to get their employees to fill out the census, and reached out to the outdoor outfitters so we could figure out a better way to get employees counted. And I also want to mention that before our next meeting, the Business Summit is happening at the Hoodoo on the 10th of February from 8 to 4. And there's a good lineup of speakers that are going to be presenting. And then I had an organizational meeting with Deanne from the Federal Census Bureau and Carrie Valdez from the Grand County Library, as we're trying to figure out how we're going to spend our grant money that we received, the $25,000. And so all the money is going to have to be allocated through the library, and we're jumping forward with getting printed materials to allocate to any census partner or anyone who needs information or materials. So you will see that coming. And that was it.
Thanks, Karen. Joel, we are now in section 4, administrative reports. Joel?
So, thank you. Ronnie, are you the only city representative who's going on the delegation to DC? I wasn't sure if Kaylin was going.
Just me.
It's just you? Do you have an idea of what the dollar figure for the one-night sponsorship was and all that?
No. I'll get it to you.
Okay.
Should be cheap. One night in Junction. Woo.
Oh, is that where it's not in DC?
Because of the early flight.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
definitely.
And then
Yes.
per diem for the duration of the trip?
Yes.
Or you can just put me in the Junction parking lot. I'll sleep with the rabbits.
Okay.
Bar camping.
As you guys are aware, this week the appellate court ruled on the Lions Back lawsuit. Chris sent you our response that's gone out to the media. That he emailed it to everyone. Did you guys not?
I
get
did
that?
not receive
I
that.
have not
Before I
received
left.
anything.
I knew that happened,
okay.
and I did not receive that.
I will make sure you get it.
Summarize it, though, for us.
It basically just says that we're reviewing it, that we've just recently received it, that they will meet with their other counsel and they'll go forward, and then he made a statement as to that he was upset that the court would step in and overrule municipal authority when they're trying to legislate difficult land use issues between multiple parties with multiple issues. So, but yeah, I will make sure you guys get that. I apologize, I thought you'd already received it. The community rebuilds rezone is going to be on your agenda next time. We're working hard to process it and determine school definitions and some other things you guys asked us to dig up. And we have reached out to the APA and some other state officials to get some more insight from more people than just us to figure out what our best options are and give you guys the best options going forward. And so we should have that on there for the next agenda. Also, overnight accommodations, we're continuing to work away at those. Those will go back to Planning Commission on the 13th and be presented to them with some of the stuff we've talked about and get more info from them and just keep plugging along and start working at form and structure and some of the things you guys have given us direction to look at over the next little while. And we'll do that. Strategic planning date, the infamous strategic planning date. We're still trying to nail that down after last time, or did we get it?
Oh,
We
I
got
thought I
it.
signed
Yeah.
up for a date, but it might be.
What is it?
March 6th.
Good, I'm glad you guys, I thought that was it, but I hadn't heard if it had been finalized or not. And Carmela's been gone the last 2 days, so I haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to ask her if she got all the
Been
responses, so.
meltdown at City Hall without Carmela.
It has been. Legislation started yesterday. Nothing big to report yet, but
It's early.
it's fast and furious, and the bills we're tracking are already stacking up. So we'll be making sure to give you updates on that as we go along. And Rachel is going to give you a little bit of a budget update and give you some tax numbers.
While she's coming up here, will you do a quick information about the back-in-angled parking and why it's not on our agenda?
It's set to be on your agenda for the next meeting. So if you go look at the calendar breakdown of how we do our agendas, it's on for the next meeting.
Because we've been working on it.
Yes, we are working on it. We haven't stopped working on it. It's just, they all things in time, I guess. We're working on several things, and it is on the next agenda along with the RAP tax information. That's coming up on your next agenda as well. So you guys will have that information to go over and look at as well as we go forward on the next one. So there's a couple other things on there, but those are the two, from my perspective, those are the two big things for us as staff, so.
Can I ask, so the ERA
The
resolution?
ERA's on there as well.
Okay,
So.
okay.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. The ERA resolution. Mary was hoping, the chair of the county council was hoping that we could potentially do a joint meeting to sign the resolution instead of, in our separate. And she was talking about having a joint meeting just in general with the city and county. So I don't know if that's of interest, if we want to put it on our agenda for next meeting, or if we want to hold it for the joint meeting. That was something she really wanted to do.
Would they come over to our meeting? Is that what they want to do?
They would potentially join us for an hour or two before our regular meeting. So,
I didn't know if she had other items or this was a 5 or 10 minute. Yeah.
well, we should think about what we would want to talk about during a joint meeting. We haven't had one for a while, so let's have that conversation after a meeting tonight about, maybe send me some agenda items if we were to have a joint meeting with them. The main topic could be the signing of the ERA resolution. She wants to dress as a suffragette. I would join her. It's a 100-year anniversary.
We're happy to accommodate however you guys want that meeting to go. Just let us know when you want it and give us enough. If it's not on our normal meeting date, just give us a heads up so we can get in touch with you guys and make sure you can all be here. And as long as we have 24 hours and you guys can be here, we can get it noticed and ready.
Maybe we'll talk about annexation as well.
Yeah?
Rachel.
Hi. It seems like it's been a while since we've talked about the budget. And I can tell that you're
Not
all-
really.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I wanted to give you a quick update on sales-based tax revenue, just because our January numbers came in. This is on our public-facing dashboard of taxes, which is moabcity.org/taxes, but you can also access it through the financial dashboard that I set up for City Council. So as you may recall, our current sales tax revenue was budgeted this year at a 7% increase. Even with a 7% increase over last year, it still requires us to pull about 1.2 million from our reserves. So the slightly good news is that as of January, we're coming in at 9%, which is
That's great.
helps me out to sleep at night, because if we come in under 7%, then we have to pull even more from reserves. So fingers crossed, the rest of the year will stay on that trend. And just a note of interest, if you like to get into the numbers, which I do. Resort community, transient room tax, they're each broken out here. So this is the last 3 Januaries. You can see 17, 18 last year, and then this year, resort community, so we're up. TRT is the only tax that the month of January has just a slight downtrend, which is fascinating because all of our other taxes are up in the month of January. So people are here and they're spending money. They're just not necessarily staying in our hotel rooms in the
They're
month of
sleeping in the
January.
county.
Or can it
Quite possible.
be that the price of the rooms are
Price of
so
the
much
room
lower?
goes down.
It's possible. I haven't looked at the market to see if there's been drastic increases but it's just the month of January.
Huh.
So when
Oh,
you look
that
at,
You would assume
if
that
you-
the prices reduced in January would correspond with last year as well if they were, and it's actually December.
Except a bunch of
True.
rooms went online and were discounted.
Yeah.
right, if you look, so Joel's
Promoted
correct,
at
the
that
collections
discount.
that we bring in January are for December. So when you look at the last 3 years, if that were the case, then I would expect that the other months would also have a decrease if the rates, unless maybe they're discounting just the month of December, which is possible. But the good news is that overall, tax is up by 9%. So everyone, keep your fingers crossed that that trend continues through the end of the year so that we don't have to increase the amount that we're taking out of reserves for this year.
What's the snowpack?
Pretty good.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight was the budget process. So as of yesterday, departments have started preparing their budget. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the council piece of that process, just to kind of give you a heads up for the month of April. So this schedule anticipates that we have a budget presented to City Council on March 25th. And then we would get right into council budget workshops in the month of April. So this would anticipate a city council budget workshop on April 1st, which is kind of the initial look at the proposed budget, the balanced budget. And then, these dates are just suggestions. So whatever day of the week, whatever time of the day works for the majority of council. I just wanted to get something on the schedule so that we kind of knew what it looked like. And then the following week, we would have a city council budget workshop. The week after that is a regular council meeting. We would adopt a tentative budget. That means that we're still working on the budget, but by law, we have to adopt a tentative budget. And then the next week, which is your off-council week, we would have a budget workshop. The following week would be adopting the master fee schedule, and then we'd move right into public hearing. So that gives you 3 council budget workshops to sit down, drill into the budget, understand what's happening in the budget. I mean, I think that you're all in a much better foundation right now than perhaps last year or the previous years as far as knowing what challenges we're facing. But I want to make sure that we have adequate time as a body that you can understand what we're presenting and make changes and be able to move forward with the budget that everyone's invested in.
Thank you so much for that.
And if at any point you want me to start scheduling those, just let me know.
Do you want to talk about the April meetings, what we were talking about this afternoon?
So the first city council budget workshop I have on here is April 1st, so it would be the first week in April. And then the second week in April, I can pull up a schedule, but it's ugly because it's got everything all over it, but let's just look at a calendar here.
Yeah, so Rachel, the last end of March is 5 Tuesdays in a month kind of thing. So, I mean, I, for example, kind of made tentative plans to disappear, well, see, does this make sense? Yeah, disappear at the tail end of March, kind of thing. Do something to try to take advantage of our little gap in schedule. So you can go ahead and schedule stuff there, but, you know.
I think we have a meeting on March, if I'm looking at this right, March 24th. So I think she was suggesting a meeting just one day after on the 25th, but not the, well.
Well, I think what we're talking about is
December.
one meeting per week
Yeah.
in April.
Okay.
And having sort of a set time for that, knowing that Tawny, Fridays are good days.
But if I can't be here, I will catch up.
But we could look at doing Friday, 11 o'clock meetings in April to have our special budget meetings.
And how possible is it to hit it online?
I think we should make it very possible, especially if you think you might be doing some traveling and to accommodate just schedules and Fridays.
Didn't you adopt something that allowed online participation?
Yeah, we did. And especially if we're not making decisions at these budget workshops, we can just be really aware that if any one of us is going to participate remotely, we can make sure that we've got whoever's presenting maybe could sit. We can set them up a chair on this side of the dais to be able to be seen on the bill like that. Maybe. We can accommodate for that.
Are you suggesting we can just shove any of those days that were a Wednesday to Friday? I mean, I guess we can follow up with an email on this, but that's what I'm guessing is the suggestion, because some of them were Wednesdays, yeah.
It's your pleasure.
Well, just to, yeah.
Does that work for you?
What?
Oh, Fridays.
Fridays work.
Yeah.
Fridays are perfect.
I could
I'm not going to promise anything on other days.
Yeah. And then a time.
I'm good from about 5 a.m. until
Well,
whenever.
would we want to do the sooner the better? I mean, would we want to crack open the budget at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m.?
I think your brain on math works best after, like at 9.
I agree.
With coffee? Yeah, okay.
So 9 o'clock, Fridays, April, can be tentative workshops. Or actually pretty, like pencil without an eraser.
When's spring break? Just curious.
Oh,
Easter-
good question.
Easter is the 12th. April 12th is Easter, so
So the week before.
a week before.
Oh, so April 10th might be complicated for some of us, but again, participating remotely or catching up with the workshop.
The problem,
You're not
the problem with Fridays in April, and I don't know if anyone's attending, but their league meeting, the spring league meetings is in April. I think it's the 22nd, or it's the 15th, I can't remember, it's one or the other.
How long typically,
15th
Rachel,
of
are the
April is
meetings?
Wednesday.
So that starts that day, and so it's either that 15th through the 17th or the 22nd through the 24th. I have it, let me look.
22nd
is our
through the
mid-year?
24th is what it seems like it was.
Yeah, let me look.
Previously, Karen, they've taken about 2 hours.
So
Just depends on.
League is the 22nd through the 24th.
Well, we can, if we schedule the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, the 24th, and May 1st is a Friday, but it's kind of the last, it's the last day in April, it's a Friday.
And my guess is you probably won't need all 5, but once you start the process, then you'll have a better feeling for how much discussion you have, how long we need, and then you can move those around.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy to send out invites for all 5 of those, and then we could.
Why don't we do that? And then if there's a particular date that's not great, then,
9 a.m.?
well, next
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay,
All right, I will do that. Thank you very much.
that works with work. Okay. Thanks, Rachel.
And Chuck, city engineer, is going to talk to you guys about UDOT and some of the projects we have going on as well.
Chuck, do you want to start with 191?
No, I want to do that last.
Oh, save the best for last?
Well, Lisa's going to come up and join me on that one, so.
That's why I thought maybe you'd want to do it first.
Yeah. She
You make-
agreed.
Oh, okay.
You'll recall last time we talked about the 2 planning projects that are about to be underway with UDOT, so I won't repeat myself on that, but if there's any questions, certainly be happy to answer them. But we thought we'd give you an update on other projects that are in the Moab area, the information we have. So tonight, I wanted to talk to you about downtown parking structure, the Dispersed Parking project, the downtown intersection safety improvements, and the US 191 widening project, in that order. Don't have a a lot of information, but I've got a slide on each one of these, so hopefully you'll find that informational.
Thanks, Chuck.
The downtown parking structure, we have had 2 design advisory committee meetings have been held. Again, the advisory committee meeting is 2 council members, a member of the planning commission, and 3 members of the public. We've had 1 public open house. We had about 25 to 30 folks here at that meeting.
And the design advisory committee meeting, Karen, you're on it? Kaylin?
Yes.
Karen and Kayla.
And then 3 business members from the public?
Correct. And then Becky Wells from the planning commission.
And Becky Wells from planning, thank you.
And as part of that project too, we've had 1 internet survey conducted with about 120 responses in kind of in conjunction with the open house. The same kind of information that we presented at the open house, we did on the internet survey. And we thought that was a decent response for that. Next public open house is scheduled for February 20th, about a month away or less.
And the goal of that public house, or that open house is?
The goal of that is, so the first public open house, we focused on what the public perceived for aesthetics and design features, and we got a lot of input. So since then, the architects have gone back with that information and have put together 3 much more fleshed out concepts. So those concepts will go to the design advisory committee, and then we're hoping that they'll either say take it down to 2, which we think is good, or they'll keep the 3, and then the public will have the opportunity to comment on those at that public meeting, that open house.
Just a quick question for you. Is the architect or other design pros that we've hired continuing to burn cash doing design work as we speak and will be from now till the next public hearing, for example? Is that correct?
That's correct.
What's their burn rate? I mean, how much money are we talking about that we spent so far?
Well, so far we have spent, that design contract, I answered your question about that.
Dun, dun, dun.
Pretty timely question there. The
And
design
reminder that it's UDOT money spent.
I know that.
Yeah, design contract has expended approximately $200,000 to date.
To date.
Yes, sir.
And how much money would we be talking about by, say, the end of February?
Maybe
Do we
another
go-
80,000. be my
Another
guess.
80? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's not just the aesthetics. We've focused, on the public open houses with aesthetics, but we're doing all the engineering, surveying that's necessary, the civil engineering, structural engineering that goes along with it as well, to make sure that it functions, as well as they're spending time developing sustainability options, right? Those are part of their scope of work for presentation.
Yeah. So Chuck, could you elaborate on what sort of responses you got in your internet survey?
Yeah, it was mainly a function of what styles and textures and colors the public were interested in on what the structure would look like as well as perform. The performance of it is pretty much set at this point, with the requirement for the number of stalls, in terms of it being a 4-acre structure on that city parking lot with some limited land acquisition probably necessary to even it out.
Yeah.
And,
It was mostly colors and shades and textures, though.
yeah, that's what that survey was about.
Yeah. Keep going, Chuck. Sorry.
Design scheduled to be completed in the fall of 2020 this year, with construction completed in fall of 2021.
And what's the height of the building now? It's 3 stories above ground and nothing below ground, is that correct?
No, it's a 4-story building.
4.
It fits within our zoning ordinance, with the highest parapet is right at 42 feet, I believe, above grade. And we've worked with Nora to make sure that the height complies with all of our zoning requirements.
Okay. Yeah.
Keep going, Chuck.
Yep. Next topic was the dispersed parking. Again, this is UDOT money that was authorized from the hotspot funding, the same way that the downtown parking structure was. UDOT has led this effort with extensive city coordination. If you recall, in the parking structure, they turned over the project to us essentially. This one, they've maintained control of it, but we've worked closely with them in developing alternatives and approaching landowners and this and that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, this has been focused on the north side of town to replace some of the parking spaces that will go away with the widening project. 4 churches and 3 private properties have been approached. We approached them with a negotiated 20-year lease agreement. And why I say it's negotiated is we sat down with church leadership and came up with a list of items that were amenable to them, as well as our administrative staff and legal staff thought were reasonable things to do with a 20-year lease agreement. 3 separate churches took the easement to their congregation, and it was defeated each time. So the church leadership proposed to take it to the congregation, and then the congregation voted it down. And the contacted private property owners in that area were not interested in that type of use of their property. They all had other plans in the future that didn't include parking structures. We have a couple of more options that we're pursuing, and in a couple of weeks, we'd probably be able to report back on those. We just wanted to give you an update tonight because everybody wants to know about UDOT, and UDOT's doing a lot. We're doing a lot with UDOT right now because we're on the highway. So.
And with the dead ends of working with the churches, we are now exploring creating a parking lot where, for lack of a better descriptor, Emma East and West, the road, you know where Emma runs east and west? And then it curves down and then runs north to south and is sometimes called Maxine. So we're talking the east and west Emma. The idea of converting that road into a parking area and being able to utilize the dispersed funds for that as a next step, since the church conversations haven't gone
Yeah, it's the
as
right.
well as we'd hoped, correct?
Right. It's the right of way that we've agreed would not become a road when we did the mini Lee plat. So it wouldn't go through from 191 through to Mivita, because it's going to take the turn with that land exchange. So that area there, and it potentially with the preliminary design would hold about 20 parking spaces at that location. I counted them up today.
And we would, at our next council meeting, the idea is that we would be presented with a map or an aerial showing that development of the area.
Yes.
As well as like where the bike lane and the 1-lane road would come in and the hawk and the tying into the bike path. That's something that we could look at
That's
at our
correct.
next council meeting?
Yes, we can
Okay.
have, we will have that.
And then if we're if we're paving the one-way north and south Emma, then there would be parking on that road as well.
Below Maxine, because remember.
Below Maxine.
The right-of-way is too narrow to put in
Yep.
parking plus the sidewalk plus a 1-lane road. There's not enough room for all of it.
And that, that we would, oh no, I lost what I was gonna say. Oh, just that we'd be able to, well, we can make sure that we can solidify the funding conversation with UDOT to make sure that we're allowed to use the funds to convert the road into a parking area, as well as when we talk matrix later tonight, making sure that the construction of Emma be considered as part of the rating and ranking on that list.
So Chuck, has there been any discussion with the east side of the highway? Like, is there any property over there for parking?
We talked to some of the large property owners on that side, and they weren't interested. We didn't go to each and every one. You know, there's not,
Are you thinking of the rock shop?
Like if there's any Yes?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Because I was contacted by a landowner on that side of, where all those smaller shops are on 500, and, back in the day, he was hoping to put in, a bagel shop, and, he still owns a property, would still like to do something down there, but there's parking's not even an option. So I'm just curious if there's anything on that side.
We haven't talked to that property owner. If you want to give me his information or her information, we'd be happy to contact him.
About their lack of parking or about them offering dispersed parking?
Lack of
property.
parking, like a lack of being able to develop that area
The
at
old
all.
Chili Pepper? Up the hill?
That they had to make into an Airbnb because of parking.
Yeah, the issue is on that end of town, is that everyone wants to use their property for a higher use than a parking lot, is what we're finding. Not everyone, but so far the property owners have said that.
Yeah, so Chuck, would that be a reason why I've been a proponent of dispersed parking farther out, like in the RC zone, for example? You know, we could include any uses in there, but that wouldn't fly because for a couple of reasons. A, none of the business owners would be interested in parking for oversized vehicles, for example, farther away from their businesses. And B, it's not the highest use. I mean, both those reasons. Is that why it wouldn't fly?
Well, that's right, and it started out as a way to take care of the parking for the businesses around the curve that was losing those parking spaces. When we did the hotspot funding, two of the proposals were to put, I don't know if you recall, Tony, you might, because you were there, two oversized parking lots, one on the north end of town and one on the south end of town, plus dispersed parking there. We didn't get funded for the ones at the extreme ends of town, if you will. Potentially, this funding could be used for that, though.
I don't want to cut us off, but we are still just in administrative reports, and you've got 2 more things to work on, and we're going to be talking about this in 2 weeks at our meeting when it's on our agenda. So let's move on.
Okay. Downtown intersection safety improvements. You may have noticed there's contractors down on Main Street is adding mast, or they're called post-mounted traffic signal stacks, red, yellow, green, to the curb side of the intersections to increase signal visibility in order to decrease red light running. The problem has been in Moab, because we have so much 6,000 trucks per day coming through Moab, that the trucks are so tall that people can't see the lights, the traffic signals, when they're blocked out by the tractor trailers. So what's done in a lot of communities, and UDOT's doing it for us on Main Street, is moving another red, yellow, green traffic signal stack either on the mast that's over there now or down on the pole on the side. So if you're a driver, you can't see the traffic signals in front of you because it's blocked because of the tractor trailer in front of you. You look to the side, and you can see if it's a light turning yellow or if it's red. So they're working on that, 6 locations. Also, they're installing the on the mast yield to pedestrians when turning left signs to reduce pedestrian and crosswalk and left turn vehicle conflicts. It's an awareness thing. People who will read the signs will be aware that sometimes, we all know that there are rules for crosswalks and pedestrians should follow those rules, but occasionally pedestrians get caught in the crosswalks, and you don't want to be in too much of a hurry making your left-hand turn and hitting a pedestrian in the crosswalk. So this is a sign that's used to make people alert to that.
But we are not getting a left-hand turn, a left turn signal anywhere.
No. I know there's a lot of movement for that, but that's a UDOT decision off of their highway, and they have repeatedly told us they're not
That is
gonna
a
do it.
dead end, no pun intended.
Yeah. Project should be completed this week, and this project is totally funded by UDOT per the city's request.
And it's a UDOT project.
It's a UDOT.
We're just reporting it to you so you have the information, not to be confused with this is something we're doing.
It's a UDOT project.
Yep.
UDOT project. But we think it's a.
Got that, Bobby? UDOT project.
Yeah. I think it's a safety improvement. I honestly do.
Thanks, Chuck.
US 191 widening project. Last time I reported that hi Lisa, that the bids, they received 3 bids. They came in, low bid was more than 10% greater than the engineer's estimate. So under UDOT's procurement policy, they had to go back to the Transportation Commission to see if the commission would approve additional funds of their project. That happened last Friday. The Transportation
Yay,
Commission.
I love you, Dot.
They approved
Very
that.
grateful for that additional funding.
Yeah, and there's a tentative schedule here, and I want to emphasize tentative because they're still in the process of getting the contract awarded, but we are talking to them on a daily basis. We believe the contract has been recommended for award, but it hasn't been awarded yet, so they're not telling us who it is or how much it was. But we suspect that construction contract will be awarded soon, possibly mid-February or earlier. UDOT will publish the contractor's proposed schedule. So contractors bid a job with the schedule in mind. UDOT has some very specific specifications for how that goes, for starting dates and ending dates, but yet the contractor comes in and says, I'll do it this way for this much money. City doesn't know what those are. Some UDOT staff doesn't know what it is because it hasn't been released from procurement yet. However, as soon as it gets released from procurement after award, then UDOT engineering and project management staff will publish that contractor's proposed schedule, with construction likely not starting earlier than March 9th. That's my belief. It's possible they can beat it by a week, but I don't think they're gonna beat that by 2 weeks.
And the contract has built-in bonuses for finishing within a 12-month window.
Within the 12-month window, so March to March.
Yep.
March 9th to March
So
9th,
in-
so.
Well,
an
they're
attempt-
bonuses, so it doesn't mean it's guaranteed that that happens. I mean, don't set that expectation that it's.
Nothing's
Is
guaranteed.
the bonus like
It's substantial.
millions,
guaranteed.
or is it like a cheeseburger?
It's a
What-
cheeseburger,
what-
but it's at the golf course. They have excellent cheeseburgers.
It's six figures. I know
It better
that.
not be golfing. It better
It's
be
6
working.
figures. It's not, I don't think it's.
And it's, I mean, there's never a guarantee in any construction time schedule. You start tearing up the road and you start getting into road base and start trying to do compaction and you just run into issues like, so, but they try and factor that in when they build their scheduling. So they bid on it knowing it was 12-month. That's what they accepted. And there's bonuses to coming in under the window and there's penalties if you get out beyond it. So there's huge incentives to be done in the 12-month window.
Am I to understand also that like the first couple of months are like drainage, or are they just getting in on the road?
Well, we don't know until we see their schedule.
We don't know
but-
because it all depends on this.
But as
Oh,
UDOT has
who
looked,
is awarded the contract will then publish their schedule, correct?
we wouldn't be surprised if the drainage work is done outside the right of way in these winter months, because it's where they can work, and get that done first, because you have to include drainage changes coordinated with your roadway improvements.
And we appreciate UDOT and all that they do. They do a lot for this community. They do a lot for the state. They're a different animal to work with. They have different sets of rules than the rest of us. Like Chuck just said, we don't know who they're awarding the contract to. We don't even know how much it's for, and they're awarding it. I mean, if we tried to award a contract and brought it to you guys and said, we're not gonna tell you who it is, and we're not gonna tell you how much it is, but award it anyways. I mean, so people get, kind of frustrated with us sometimes about information, but sometimes we're only as good as the information we're getting.
Well, and we can hope that the contract is awarded to a company that gets the tourism-based economy that we
Yeah.
enjoy.
Real quick, I can tell you at the pre-bid meeting, there was extensive discussion about that. So all the contractors who were allowed to bid knew about the uniqueness that is Moab,
But the schedule will come with the,
once award is done. After the contract's awarded, there will be either weekly or bi-weekly progress meetings, which city staff will attend with contractors and UDOT, and, talking about what's ahead and what's been accomplished and issues and other things. And here, Lisa, I'd turn it to you maybe to talk about this.
So, for about a month now, I've been in touch with Scott Henriksen, who is going to be the public information person working for the outside firm that UDOT has hired to handle all of this. He's the same person who's been handling the 191 widening public information from the start. And I have impressed upon him the importance of providing us with information as early as possible, because we've run into some issues, you know, a couple of years ago and over the last year with kind of not getting anything until the very last minute, and then it doesn't really help, you know, to get information out. Right now, all the information that I have, we have put out on social media and it's on our website. And when we get some more firm information about, you know, likely when the construction will begin, you know, I have this list of business owners that Ronnie and Karen kind of pulled together about a year and a half or 2 years ago. And I'll start pushing that information out to them directly, along with any other public information that we put out on social media and on the website. I presume that UDOT will be doing press releases because, again, this is UDOT's project. It's not the city's, so it's not my place to do press releases about UDOT's project. And they are very specific about the information they put out and those sorts of things. But whatever I get, I will be sharing as soon as I have it. And, you know, we're doing our best here. It's just things have been slowed down a little bit because of the bidding process. And you know, kind of we're backlogged a little bit even prior to that. So, you know, hopefully we'll get started by March 9th and things will be moving at this point. So, any questions about that?
I would just like to say that, so they have had an outreach coordinator, Hendrickson, like you said, for almost 2 years.
Yes.
Even sending out information that we're in the bidding process, or any information that is given to businesses is better than nothing, and that's what's been happening. And so, granted,
I've mentioned that to Scott as well when I talked to him.
so, this is not on you guys. This is, just a relay to their communication firm that anything is better than nothing. And their website isn't updated.
No, I keep looking there too. So Scott happened to be in town about three weeks ago, and he popped in to my office and talked with me for a little while. And I did mention to him that, you know, we were hearing that businesses hadn't heard anything for a very long time, and there is this concern. He's aware of the concern. I'm not sure what the holdup is there, if he just isn't getting information from UDOT to put out, or, you know, what their plan is. But, you know, I really did try to impress upon him as strongly as I could that we need information, hopefully even weekly, but at least bi-weekly, about where the project is moving, so that we can put that out to our community as quickly as we possibly can.
Karen, the email list that you guys created, is that the businesses on the north end that will be affected from the beginning to end of the project? Is that who's on it?
Ronnie did most of the legwork on that, and so there was open meeting. There was a couple public meetings that people could sign up, and if they wanted information, she went door to door to.
Yeah.
I think between you and me, it was like 120, but we didn't even hit everyone because not everyone's there when you go by.
Did you-
So,
Right.
But then we also pulled, so Rachel
yeah, I have
pulled the
emails
bids.
for people who gave them to me.
My question is, does it tend to hit everyone who's in the project
We'd
boundary?
have to go back through the list and
Okay.
see.
I just didn't know if you
Probably
focused
not
on
all
that
of
area
them.
when you were knocking
No, at the
doors.
time, we were dealing with the downtown plan, we
Oh,
were dealing
okay.
with hotspot funding, we
Okay.
were dealing with widening, and we were dealing with thing I'm gonna forget right now, but I think really we are going all the way from 300 south, north, and, you know, you can
Okay.
only hit so many, but
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify that, so we know what we're sending
No, it
out and
wasn't- it
if we're
wasn't
hitting a
about
targeted demographic.
The
I think it would-
widening project.
Okay.
probably be better to look at the list and see who's missing, and I'm willing to go to them and get their information if it's not easy to find, but, no, I appreciate what the city's doing, but I'm trying to help out the residents and, businesses in particular, because they really do need a heads up, months in advance to kind of plan and pre-plan for this stuff, and I'm just trying to figure out how we can improve the system, and I understand it's not really our responsibility, it's UDOT's, but I think much as we all love UDOT, they've I'm sorry, but been falling short on this, and it's not adequate for our community. So I kind of feel like we have to step in between, because our residents deserve something, even if it's once a week saying, okay, look, this is still the latest information we have. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I don't know if it's possible to dedicate a place on the homepage that just says, construction or project updates that might, affect your business or home life, because I mean, it affects people without businesses too. But just because, if nothing else, then they know once a week, we're at least paying a little attention to them and letting them know, the latest we have. And maybe we can do, another ad or informational thing in the paper, just explaining to people. I mean, I know you can only do so much, but
Okay.
I just, and it was hard going door to door, because everybody does, admit they have different forms of communication. Some people will look at Facebook. Some people, only look in the snail mail. Some people, email. But it just seemed like, from the majority I spoke to at the time, and I'm sure turnover, that it seemed like at least some email updates or mail updates would help them. I kind of just think sometimes it's worth the investment to try and.
Okay, I think we can definitely do a lot of those things. We can get the word out where we're at right now. If in the next week or two, the contract's actually awarded, we'll get that in the contract. When we get it, it'll include the contractor's work schedule, and we can publish the projected work schedule immediately. So you'll have the entire year of diagrammed out as to where it goes.
The unfortunate reality is we're kind of sandwich meat for
Yeah.
for people in the community, though, who felt like they tried to communicate with UDOT about their desires and needs, and they don't feel like they were listened to or they got a response. So we're kind of the sandwich meat in between. But I just feel like it or not, I think we owe it to people to try and step in and fill in. And I know some people are really concerned now because they feel like they went out of their way to explain, this is like the worst time for this to have started. We wanted it to start in the fall. And I think they understand that we don't have control over that, but I think they're frustrated because they feel like maybe UDOT didn't respect, and they don't have total control either.
And we understand that.
Yeah.
That's why we've really pushed the 12-month window. If we can stay inside that window, then whether you start January 1 or July 1, it's the same. And so when they initially approached us about starting September, October, that really concerned us, but so does March, because if March goes long, that's April. If we start in September and it goes long, that's the second October. And it's like, those are like almost the 2 months we want to miss. It's almost like it's best to start either in the middle of winter or in the middle of summer, and not in the spring or in the fall. But at this point,
I think
we have, but again, like, the reason why the timing works the way that it does is, remember, there's this asphalt thing.
yeah, that's the problem.
And the temperatures are like, in order for asphalt to set, it has to happen at a certain time.
The batch plants close in the winter.
But at this point, unfortunately, we're talking about spring, and everyone knows that's hell. And then you're dealing with summer and fall, which is our, the busiest time in Moab again, and then a spring again. So, like, starting it in January is, you're only dealing with 2 winters.
But there's
and a
only so
spring.
much they can do.
I'm with you. I would.
That's not what was told at the time, and that's what they were trying to do. And we're here nor there, because it hasn't started. So, but this is starting a project in March, and our busiest season is for the town. I'm not speaking for my business. Is really problematic.
Yeah, I think more the issue is, for the longest time, a lot of them were told, we're going to start in the winter, we'll get this winter work done. And then they just didn't hear anything else. So some of them were definitely preparing for that. And then they didn't hear anything. And then they heard, oh, it was going to be months later. And like I said, your lead time on preparing for some of those business-related aspects of this, just some of your business logistics and other things that you have to get ahead of months out, it just screws with it. So, I think we can do better from here on out. And I, again, don't feel like it was, in the ideal world, we wouldn't be doing so much of this, but I just feel like we got to step up because they're not getting it from the UDOT end. And we owe it to people.
I got pushback from one business owner already today who expressed dismay about this very issue, starting and ending at the wrong times. And she speculated that businesses are going to go out of business just because of the highway construction. And I think she's too pessimistic. But that's a common sentiment. You should know.
Well, I think some of them are scared too, because some of them did. When the highway got ripped up in front of Woody's and everything, some of them definitely did feel that. So, memory is fresh and they just want to be respected and know that,
Okay, so we need to move on from this. So thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Lisa.
Sure. We'll
And-
stay on it as much as we can.
Right, thank you.
Okay, we're moving along to item number 5 on our agenda, citizens to be heard. I have 2 blue forms here. If you are out there and you'd like to be heard and you're waving at me, go ahead and grab a form outside, fill it out, hand it to Summer, and she'll get it to me. Joe Doherty. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, you did, absolutely.
Welcome.
Hi, Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Joe Doherty. I work for the State Division of Emergency Management. I'm the Public Information Officer there. That was interesting. You were just talking about public information issues. We are conducting a training here in Moab City tomorrow and Thursday to help build a network, a strong network of public information officers, not only for Moab City, but for the greater Grand County area. There will be participants from Moab Fire, Moab City, Grand County, the Sheriff's Office, even folks are coming from San Juan, Emory, and Carbon to be here. I just wanted to extend an invitation that if any of you feel like stopping by the Grand County EMS building over on 100 North tomorrow or the next day, we'll be there from 8:30 to 5 each day. The people who are participating in the class will be trained on press releases, social media, crisis communications, strategic communications planning, and we'll even run them through some mock press conferences as well. So any of you is welcome to come and visit us. I know you all have lives and you're busy, but if you wanted to see what's going on and to see the kind of cool training that your city staff members are getting, you are more than welcome to be there. And I'm here if you have any questions for me.
I will be there, but not with this hat on, a different hat.
Okay, perfect. Well, we will have a really good time. It's probably the best, my favorite out of all of the FEMA trainings that is available that we conduct as a state. This one is probably the most fun and is really beneficial. As you guys know, a crisis can very easily overwhelm a single public information officer with how many media, social media, and all the requests that come, and building a strong network so PIOs know who to call and when and where they are. We're going to work to keep this group connected.
Is there coffee?
There will be coffee there. I actually confirmed that before I came over here. So, and probably the second best part of the training is it is free to all of those who are attending, all those who registered. So it doesn't cost the city anything. It's something that we provide as a state, as just a resource that we provide through the Emergency Management Agency. So thank you very much, and congrats on being elected into one of the paradise cities of Utah.
Yeah, serving is just bonus.
Yeah.
Living here is the best. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Zachariah? Levine? Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so my purpose for being here with you tonight is to bring your attention to 4 separate events. I have flyers that are being passed around for 3 of these events and a 4th that I will just tell you about verbally. I did send an email to you all as a council, in addition to my council, with some of this information, so if this is a repeat, bear with me. It's also for the purposes of the public's information. So the first event is this top flyer, the Canyonlands Business Summit. Our office, in collaboration with many other agencies, including representation from the city of Moab, hosts an annual business summit. This year it is scheduled for February 10th. It is taking place at Hoodoo Moab Hotel, and we are excited about another great round of speakers and content. The welcome address will be provided by Congressman John Curtis. Our keynote speaker will be Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox. I will provide another State of the Local Economy address, and we have a tremendous amount of other really value-adding content. So I would encourage you all to come, or at a minimum, share this information with your networks. The same evening, so February 10th, moving on to the second flyer that you have in front of you, our office is hosting a soft launch of a new network that we are trying to put together and facilitate, referred to as the Grand Area Innovation Network. So in order to complement some of the business networking activities provided by the Chamber of Commerce, we are really trying to facilitate and support the development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Moab. Many of you know that entrepreneurship has played a lead role in Moab's history for many decades. And as we evolve into the global economy that is making up the 21st century, we want to make sure that we are providing business support services and entrepreneurial support services to our community. So that evening from 5 to 7 p.m. at 98 Center, we will have a semi-structured, semi-informal gathering. And it would be great for you all to attend and participate in that. It will be, like I said, semi-structured. In exchange for your attendance, we will provide some beverages and food as well. And
Like 98 Center beverages?
Correct. Alcoholic and non-alcoholic. Okay, so all are welcome.
Very good beverages.
Coffee.
I don't know about coffee. It'll be in the evening,
Too late
but
for
maybe tea.
coffee.
So the third event that I want to bring your attention to is one that I'm quite excited about as well. On Tuesday, February 11th, we have the opportunity to meet with a preeminent scholar and also town council member in Jackson, Wyoming, preeminent scholar on the issue of governance in gateway and resort communities. Jonathan Schechter has been on the town council in Jackson for, I think, 2 years now. He's also the founder of the Chartier Institute, which is effectively a think tank on critical issues in communities like ours. He will be a panelist at the Business Summit on a panel we are referring to as the What We Wish We Knew panel. It will have speakers from other resort communities in the West. He is staying on to participate in the evening event for GAIN, as well as this session that I'm talking about now. So I did get a response from Karen and Kaylin that they would be interested in meeting with Jonathan. I know Nora is interested. I think this would be a great opportunity heading into your strategic planning retreat as well as your budget season. And I am hopeful that many county council members will come as well. I think it'll be a good opportunity for all of us to dig into some of those big questions that we face as local governments.
Do you have a time on that for the 11th, Zachariah?
Yeah, so right now it's scheduled for 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We may modify that depending on schedules. So if your schedule is an issue, let me know, and I think there's a little bit of flexibility there. If we stick with the original time, I'll provide lunch. Actually, I think I said 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., so I will send out a final confirmation next week, but more importantly, I'm interested in knowing how many people are available and attending.
Thanks
Lastly,
so much.
the Veil and Deed presentation that is taking place on Thursday, January 30th. I promised Caitlin I would remind you all about this. We have been working together for a long time in order to bring George Ruther to Moab. He is the housing director in Vail, and the Veil and Deed program is an innovative program that basically provides a cash incentive to existing homeowners to place a deed restriction on their property and take it out of the open market and put it into a deed restricted market for people who live and work in Vail. And so the reason why we're bringing George here is just to make you all aware and the community aware of this type of mechanism. It's voluntary. Of course, there's a budgeting need in order to support it, but this is really just to get the conversation going in our community.
And there's 2 sessions for that, correct?
Yeah, there's a daytime session and an evening session. So I have passed out all the flyers to you here, and I'll leave a stack of each of these, several stacks of these out in the hallway.
Awesome. We'll hang them up.
Yes.
Thank you, Zachariah.
One quick question before we leave. So, Joel, I started to register for the Canyonland Business Summit, but I wasn't sure whether the $50 fee the city would pay it.
Offline, because it's just, we're in citizens to be heard right now, Mike. Thanks.
For you, it's 75.
You can do it?
We'll only cover 50.
That's all I want to know. Can I go, will the city pay for it? That's-
Yeah, we'll cover 50 of the 75.
Thanks, Zachariah. Michael Liss? What's
Hello, how are
this?
you guys?
Good, welcome.
Well, thank you. I want to talk about the downtown parking structure. Sort of relevant, you just had this small talk on it. Almost like a reality check, because I've been following this story for like a year and a half now. And it seems like you guys, like I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because the parking structure is not solving an issue that we have, okay? And I'm like, why are we letting this continue and spending all this money? Because on a gut level, it's gonna be the ugliest building in town, okay? It's gonna be this, even if the parapet goes to 42 feet, the car is gonna be higher, and then the truck's gonna be higher, okay? So it's the tallest thing in town, okay? The second thing is, people don't come to a small rural town to park in a parking structure. They just don't do that. I've lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, okay? Our version of City Market is Ralph's. There's a big parking lot in front. Well, there's also parking on the roof. Guess what? You'll go around and around and around and around to park on the floor in front, and the roof is always empty. People, just as human beings, don't park in parking structures. Okay, so they don't do it in Los Angeles unless you go to the mall or ArcLight movie theater. In Moab, they're not gonna do it, okay? So it's almost like you guys don't feel empowered to take control of this process to get what we could use to actually help the community. I mean, $8 million, this is the largest infrastructure project of the town right now, I believe, that you're in control of, okay? And UDOT gave it to you to solve a real problem, a parking problem. But it's not even solving a problem, because you guys did a parking study, which is the first step, really good first step, but it's like you either didn't read it or didn't care what it said, okay? The current parking lot where the parking structure is gonna go has 60-something spots. The average usage is 42%, and the high is 1 hour a day at 62%, okay? The study says if you don't get above 85%, you don't have a parking problem. So your parking study says you don't have a parking problem at that location, okay? So number one. So if you were in control of the process, what happens with UDOT, for example, the rail study, if you don't know, the rail study came out of our transit committee, okay? Pushed by Joe Kingsley. So we're pushing these ideas. We have this idea for rail, so UDOT picks it up and then they do a study. Okay, then you notice they have all these options. Well, what happens and what should happen is there's the idea of the parking structure. And by the way, we know it was just an idea, okay? Because what happened with the recreational hotspot funding, if you remember, everyone did a wish list, and then the wish list got put together and it got rated. And so a wish list is now a 4-story parking structure going up with zero research, okay? That's not how UDOT works. What should have happened when you got the parking study, you should have all looked at it and said, you know what? The study says we don't need the parking structure there. We could put it somewhere
So
else.
Michael, you've been talking for 3 minutes now. I see you have a
Well, how much time do I
newspaper in
have?
front of you.
much time do I have?
Well, typically, we like to, encourage people not to go past 3 minutes.
Okay, so
Let me ask what is in front of you and ask you to
I'll give it to you
wrap
at the
up.
end. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the point. You had a parking study. It told you that you didn't need a parking structure there. You do have the money, so you could put the parking somewhere else, okay? I mean, I've been involved in real estate projects. You never build a parking structure if the land values do not support it. In this town, the land values do not support a parking structure because I did a plan for you where you could put street level parking where you need it on 2 separate blocks for less money than the parking structure. Here's what's gonna happen. The question I would have asked Chuck is, what's it costing? If they're doing all these designs, there's budget numbers associated with that. He's gonna come back to you and say, guess what? It's gonna be more expensive than we thought, okay? Well, that's now your opportunity to say, okay, wait, the budget's too much. Why don't we rethink this?
So we're
and do
now at
something
4
else?
minutes.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, it's been a long meeting. it is your largest infrastructure project. So I have a nice little thing to show you here to wrap it up. This is a Times Independent from 1924, and I'm going to give you a copy. And I actually got it because this is the first mention of Arches National Park. But there's a teeny little article here on the side, which I'm going to give you. And it's about this park right here, okay? Did you guys know that that wasn't like owned by the city or the school board altogether forever? It wasn't. At one point, the school board in 1924 says we need a bigger park because all the schools were here in this building and over here. So they go out and buy it, okay? Because I've heard people say, oh, we can't buy land, it's too hard. No, you have a plan. They had a plan. We want to buy that block. And it was hard because you'll read the article. They couldn't get it all at once. The prices weren't right. They finally got it. You have an opportunity now to use this money to buy land. Because guess what? I mean, you said at the Opportunity Zone Summit that you want to go speak about how environmental we are. Do you know that a concrete is the #2 producer of carbon emissions on the planet? You're going to have this huge carbon footprint that nobody's using, okay?
Now we're at 5.5 minutes.
Okay.
And everyone's heard me talk about carbon, so no
So
worries
you're going to
there.
have a carbon nightmare, and that building cannot be retrofitted because you have ramps, so you can't even use it. And I spoke to David Everett about how to build a building you could retrofit, but nobody listened. So I want you guys to read this. I'll put it there.
Thanks for the copies.
And
And
guess
thanks
what?
for your comments
Because
today.
here's the thing.
And
when-
feel free to continue to reach out to us via email, as you have been,
Okay.
and those have been helpful
Okay, it's
for
really
us to
important.
understand your comments as
Great.
well.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Okay. Any other citizens to be heard?
He needs a card.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of, the way that a council meeting works, but come on up.
This is
We
the
have
first time, I've actually never been invited to address the city council, so, and I wore my hillbilly tuxedo for you this evening. And so,
Who are you?
my name is Clark E. Griswold.
Something's full.
Okay, so.
Okay. Hi, Curtis Wells.
My name is Curtis Wells. I'm here as a citizen, but also as a county council member. And when the Senate, I can't remember the Senate bill, but when they passed the appropriation for $1 billion in 2017, 100 million of that was earmarked for recreation and tourism impacted infrastructure. And that was some effective lobbying to appropriate funds for the Cottonwood Canyon Ski Traffic Mitigation Project. And UDOT, in their infinite wisdom, wanted to see what creativity they could have with some of that money, and they put together the recreation hotspot funding that they were going to allow communities, cities, counties to apply for this money. But the deal all along was that the majority of that was going to go to the Cottonwood Canyon project. I brought it up at a city council meeting, a joint meeting with the county council in 2017, and Mayor Dave, bless his heart, said, "You're never going to get any of that money." And the pitch, Tawny was there, I think Ronnie was there, was that this is an opportunity for the bypass. And so the county formed the bypass, study committee, and we dug out all the old papers and everything, and really approached UDOT, invited UDOT down. And what spun out of that was the steering committee of stakeholders, city council members, county council members, to develop a list of projects to apply for this money. And UDOT hired a consultant to work with us to flush out these projects, and getting environmental permitting money and engineering and money for consulting to work on concepts for a bypass and look at all the previous proposed solutions for Highway 191 congestion, including redirecting traffic through town, around town. All of those things were looked at. The Spanish Valley Multi-Use Pathway was a project that was voted really high by the county. But ultimately, where we ended up at a parking structure, in my opinion, and again, I was there right in the middle of this driving it, was there was strong support for the bypass. It finished #1 on our list. And we wanted to, because the city and city manager and city council and the mayor had come on board and worked hard on this, we wanted to get a city project approved that would complement the bypass. And so the theme and the goal was we need to own our main street. Highway 191 is like having I-70 through the middle of your town, and the volume is going to continue to increase. And so, you know, I think we're at a point where the majority of the business people and the community would like to see a better situation on Main Street, more user-friendly, more business-friendly, you know, something more like what Grand Junction has, or everyone's been to a community that has a nice Main Street. Not to mention all of the commercial and freight that moves through Main Street. There's a lot of things that travel through downtown, and during our peak season can be, you know, frankly, pretty sketchy. And so there were talks to kind of beautify Main Street, and, you know, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, the idea was, well, we need a place for people to park, and we're going to kind of split and parallel track the bypass project with study money and pursue, you know, investments in Main Street. And the city's developed a study post that. Emily and I went up and presented to the Transportation Commission and gave them our list and you know, did the whole dance. And since then, the city has done a study that has in some way determined either we don't have a parking problem, or someone correct me, but it's not our primary need as a parking structure. And so I think it's, you know, I would have to say that I agree with a lot of what Michael has to say. I know we've been very inconsistent with UDOT in the past. There's been a time when the city wanted a bypass and the county didn't, and vice versa. And all along the hotspot funding process, that's kind of what they said is, you guys need to get on the same page. And so I think, you know, with all due respect, I think to say, oh, we're you know, if too far down the road, UDOT's going to get upset if we decide to, you know, rearrange our list. I don't agree with that. I don't know, I'm not immediately familiar with where the city is at in the process, but we developed a list of projects that would benefit the community tremendously. And if there is merit to rearranging that list to better serve the community, I don't think that's out of turn or out of question. And I worked damn hard, you know, to apply for that money. That is a pretty significant grant. That's the most significant grant that I've seen since I've been here. Okay. And so, you know, we have a duty to the public to make sure that that's well spent. And I'm not here to trash the parking garage as much as I think it's important that we get that money where it needs to go. And I'd like to see the city and the county get back on board with the bypass, because that's what drove the train in the beginning. And I don't have any heartburn over the city receiving the majority of those funds. I was fine with it. And the city's worked really hard, but the county definitely led the process in the beginning. And the county has a strong support for the bypass project. So, you know, if we have a joint city-county meeting in the future where we can, you know, add this to the agenda and just kind of see where things are at, perhaps you could update the county council on where you're at with the parking garage and that process, you know, because we all hear about it. And my wife's on the steering committee for the parking structure. And I've talked to a lot of committee members, not including my wife, that are scratching their head, to be honest.
Okay.
So I think it's something we should discuss. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to stick around for another agenda item. I'm sorry I wasn't invited before this in my 3 years in office, but better late than never. So.
Well, no, you know, you never have to wait for an invitation to be heard. But we have had joint meetings, so thank you, Curtis. All right, we're moving on, unless there are any other citizens to be heard, to old business. 6.1, review of council member, community, organization, liaison, and board assignments. Joel, can you toggle up the chart, and I think we can get through this pretty quickly. If y'all don't mind, we'll just go one at a time, and we'll just say yes or no or name. Sound good? So the airport board, Karen, you're good to?
We historically don't have alternatives. We, last year, put Kalen on the Moab Watershed Partnership as an alternative, so we created an alternative column. I don't know if that's something we want to do or not. That's entirely up to y'all. So that's why.
Just throw out an alternative if you want one, and you're the designee, I would say. So airport board, Karen, good?
Yes.
So the Recreation Special Service District.
Currently, it's Patrick Trim, and that's who historically it's been the person who's over the rec department, but you guys are free to make it whoever you want.
That makes sense to me if you can keep going.
Let's add
Okay.
Patrick then. The Special Solid Waste District, Kalen, yes? I think he's still interested per communication. GWSSA, Mike is still willing, great. Mosquito abatement, Chase is still good to abate. Travel Council Advisory Board, Kalen is still interested in serving from what I
And I
understand.
put him in there. He has been attending those meetings. He's never been formally appointed.
Great. Southwestern Association of Local Governments, happy to continue to serve.
Just a quick thing about what Joel said. Does he need to be appointed, I guess?
Let's do it just so that so we all know who's going and who we can ask about it if we have questions.
You could, if he needs a substitute, would you put that in the alternate? You could put my name in there.
Okay.
Great. Joel, for what it's worth, you would probably be my alternate for the,
Okay.
yeah. Healthcare Special Service District, Ronnie?
So I just need a minute because I put in the comments in the shared document. So I'm currently the city rep both to the Healthcare Special Service District and the EMS Special Service District. And there are pros and cons to that I just thought I should make you guys aware of in case you have strong feelings. So the pro is they're both health related. They, deal with some similar concerns in the community, and there is some overlap, and there is probably some advantage to understanding what's going on for both of them. The con is that they share that healthcare sales tax, and so each year they have to basically haggle for what percentage of that they're going to get and what the breakdown is. So it could be awkward to be on both. So it puts you in a weird position, and I just abstained from voting on that part this time just because I felt like I represent both of them. And I've asked both of the boards, would you guys prefer having different people? I can see how there might be some advantages to this. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that it can get odd. And I do think, likewise, there are some advantages. I do feel like they're both in a position where there's maybe some basic information gathering I could do for you guys and maybe the community to just answer some very basic questions and help them get some information out about, why do we do this a certain way, or what exactly is it we do, or where does our money not, come and not come from, just in layman's terms, just because I think from the outside they're confusing and it's hard to understand. But so anyway, I just wanted to make clear that sometimes there's a conflict, and I've personally been unable to decide if I should get off one or not. They both seem to feel like I should just do what I want to do, but I wanted to ask you guys. One meets in the mornings on Mondays, one meets in the evenings on a Thursday. I feel like I'm willing to keep going, but if any of you inherently feel uncomfortable, it's a healthcare special service district.
I probably could take that one if you want to give.
Okay, well, maybe I'll talk to you about
Well,
it.
I think that might be a good idea too, the synergy between that and the housing authority, the project is there, that could be helpful. You could be an alternative.
So which one are you going to be the alternative for? Which one are you giving up?
So we're talking the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District,
That
which
would be
meets on
Tawny?
Thursday nights, could be Tawny, and then Ronnie would be the alternative.
I'm okay with that if you are, and then that way we can talk when there's overlap, because, yeah.
I worry about EMS I know they're not a county entity any longer. I realize they're a special service district, just with
Right.
I don't know if it would be perceived as a conflict with my county job.
Oh, okay, okay,
I think I'm okay with this
okay.
one.
Well, we can talk more after this, okay.
Okay,
And in a few months, if that's not feeling right, we can change it.
okay.
So Karen, you're on the board of the chamber, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, good with that? Okay. The LPC?
I have a requested change on this one.
Yeah.
I
Is
would-
this the right form? Is this the one where we were making comments and edits?
I don't think so.
No, it's not, because the comments aren't to the right.
It's around the back.
This is a
Oh,
Google
this
Doc.
isn't updated, sorry, thank you.
So
Thanks.
I would recommend we add Carly to this one, instead of maybe Tawny. It meets on Monday at noon. It's hard for Tawny to make those.
That was
And then
my comment,
that way,
is
if we
I
have to go
asked
to
to be
Salt Lake as
taken
well,
off if
Carly
I
can go
can't get
during the
there.
workday.
Yeah,
So trade Carly for Tawny.
and I've been
Or ton
on
for
it for a while, and I'm happy to continue, but if someone else who hasn't had the chance to be on it and vote wants to, I mean,
Anybody? Any takers? It's a Monday at noon meeting, about once a month during the normal months, and then during the legislative session, it's weekly. It's every Monday at noon during the legislative session.
okay.
And you
Seem-
vote, oh, yeah.
And we
every-
vote on
every-
resolutions, and it's very interactive,
I'm
especially
sorry,
during the
can we go
leg.
back to the, I just want to put that you're on the board of the Chamber of Commerce.
What,
Or are you on the board?
yeah,
Yeah, let's have it as a board so that
what is it under?
it just says Moab Chamber of Commerce,
What do you want it to be? Sorry.
board. That it's an actual board she sits on, and not just she's going to chamber meetings. Thanks.
Are you a voting member? Are you ex officio?
Yeah. Okay, so back down to the
Okay, well,
LPC.
I can keep it, and when if you change your mind, you can let me know.
And I get a
You-
vote as being on the board.
No,
so-
and that's the thing,
I
is
can't
normally we
be.
only have 3 members, and we have 4 because the mayor's on the board, so she's not our member, but obviously. So, and Ronnie tends to be at all of them and tends to
Yeah.
participate.
Yeah, I missed one or two, but yes.
All right,
There is
moving
a lot
on.
of them. They're hard to-
The active transportation, trail mix.
Yeah, so can we just, I had put a note on there, can we change that name? I mean, well, Trail Mix just wanted to make sure people understood that the proper name is Trail Mix, just because Grand County Active Transportation is actually the county department, but the actual committee
Okay.
that has the members is Trail Mix. So my question about that was, after the confusion this past year, I know, I think the last 2 meetings, Corey Shirtliff has gone, and he's an equestrian, and I know he gave a good report at the last meeting, and I didn't know if I don't know how busy he is,
Right.
but if he had an interest,
I
it
think
sounds
he
like.
likes it, and he
Yeah.
tends to have the
Yeah.
Raymond
And it's good that it's in planning, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, if you guys
Great.
feel like you want an alternate, I could be his alternate, but yeah, I just, it's nice if he can go, because those tend to be council meeting days, and
Oh,
it's
is it?
nice.
Perfect. MOP, Mike's still good? Kalen is alternative? Great. EDC Utah, we can remove because we no longer pay dues to EDC Utah. So Economic Development Ad Hoc Committee. I don't know what that
I
is.
don't either.
Sounds like a job for Kalen.
Oh, I think for
But-
a while, maybe Curtis can say, I know Curtis and Kalen had met, and I can't remember who else is meeting with you, but guys, are you guys still
Are we
actively doing
putting
that?
ad hoc committees on this?
Okay.
That was before, we added economic development to our community development office.
Okay.
That was the beginning of that. So
Thank
it's
you.
still on.
Okay, and the Dark Skies Working Group also, is that, I don't know what Kalen said, but I think we're okay to remove that, right? Because we've passed the resolution. No longer working. Okay, the Homelessness Coordinating Committee, Mike, do you want to still serve on that?
Yeah, I've been doing it.
I'm happy to be your alternate. I attended that one meeting that you weren't able to attend, and
Yeah, I don't make all those meetings, but I go when I can.
so let me know when you can't make them, and I'll attend for you. Intergenerational Poverty, Tawny?
I think it morphed in with the key leader board. I don't think it is anymore.
So we can strike that. Great. Housing Task Force, Karen and Tawny?
No.
I think
No.
it's
No, that's
Kalen.
Kayla.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Kalen. I was gonna say,
If he needs.
That's weird.
Yeah, if he needs an
My eyes.
alternate, I can be his alternate.
great.
The next one, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it morphed
Communities
in
that
with
care.
something
Oh,
else
yeah.
too.
Delete. USU Dean's Council, I'm happy to give that to you, Mike, and can certainly serve as your alternate. And we'll just make the connection between you and Leanna because the president of USU will need to approve you as a
Any
new
idea
member
when
of the
the
board.
next meeting is?
So they're not regular meetings, so we'll just do the introduction and pass the baton with Leanna, and then she'll coordinate with you for meetings.
Good, thank you.
Throttle down in town is not really a meeting anymore, although it might morph into something else, but I think we can delete that. Housing Authority, Tawny, still good? Okay. Grand County Council, we can delete that. That doesn't, I mean, that's like coordinating with the chair. But, I mean, that's just gonna happen. It's not something to report on. School board.
And that's just attending meetings. It's not on the board, it's,
So do you want it to be, like, I think it's good for one of us on council to attend board meetings. Clear, yeah, you're not on the board. I mean, that's an elected position.
right.
So I think it's fine to leave it unless you want to delete it. What
Or do
wanna
we want to change it?
Oh, or do you want somebody else to,
If somebody else wants to, I mean,
what do you want to do? Do you want me to be your alternate?
sure.
All right, let's just do that. Tailings project. Ronnie, you're so good. I hope you want to stay there.
Oh, yes, have
Great.
such fun, such
Great. And Umtra as well,
feelings, yeah.
as they dovetail. Water Conservation Drought Management Advisory Board. Mike, still good? What boards are we missing?
So I had some on the shared document. So these new system of care meetings, they meet
Yeah.
twice a year.
Why aren't those on the spreadsheet?
It's on here at the bottom. It's on mine.
Yeah, they're on the
Second to the bottom.
I don't think that you pulled up the right one.
Oh, yeah, I think he's just got a different version up, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we added other things.
So, I mean, obviously, relatively new. They meet quarterly. I'm happy to keep going, but if someone else wants to go, next meeting
pulled
is
up the wrong
April
one.
15th, 2 to 4 p.m.
Yeah. So are you good to
Sure.
serve on that committee?
Yeah, so it's,
Okay.
I don't know how much of a name you want. It's really long. System of Care, Regional Advisory Council.
I'll fix
blah,
it
blah,
later.
blah, blah, blah.
Nothing
Okay.
we need, I'll sit here while I do.
And then also the Southeast Utah Riparian Partnership. We actually have a memorandum of understanding the city does with them. They meet twice a year. I'm happy to go. I used to work with native plants, so it's interesting. Love those tamarisk beetles, but if somebody else wants to go, yeah.
All right.
It does occur to me that I was appointed by the county as the representative to the Healthcare Special Service District, so maybe I'll talk to you guys about that, and yeah, we can talk to them.
So we need to add the League of Cities and Towns?
No, we had that up there.
No, we don't.
Oh, was that just the LPC?
It was just
Is that-
LPC.
It's there.
Okay, what do you got?
But it's not on his list. I don't know what.
This is the wrong list. We should have pulled up the other one that we were all working from. But now I have to figure out which ones we didn't go through. So I think it's League of Cities and Towns is one, where, so I serve actually on the board, and then you're the alternate, sorry.
Yeah, there Oh, yeah.
Utah Water Quality Board, on which I serve. So we'll want to add that. And I would like an alternate for that. Mike, would you serve as my alternate for the Utah Water Quality Board?
Sure.
Thanks. It's a quarterly meeting. I am on the Governor's Rural Partnership Board, so let's add that one. I mean, you don't have to add, you could just go to the other.
Are these,
The other
are
list.
these?
They're on the other
but are
spreadsheet that we
these-
were all editing.
But are these boards that we are appointing as this group, or are these just stuff you guys serve on? Like, are we outside of what we're doing?
But part of why I want to add this to the list is because if for any reason something might happen to me, I would love for the next person in this seat to serve on these boards,
Yeah, but
right? And these are boards that we're serving on.
Yeah, but if this group doesn't pick who that fills that seat, then
Oh, so I guess
this list.
we're kind of viewing this list differently, yes, than you're viewing this list. So,
Yes.
yeah, I guess the idea is that it would help us to have one list.
You guys
that
are making a master list of everything you
Yes.
do. This,
That's right.
And
the
that's kind
list
of-
I have is a list that you guys have the authority to appoint and send people to and what you need them to do.
Okay, well,
So
it
we're
sounds
doing
like
two different
we
things.
theoretically need both, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we add it?
yeah, we can do
Okay.
whatever you want, it's your world.
And then the Mill Creek Community Collaborative. I mean, that's kind of like the throttle down in town.
Okay,
and then I can't remember, did we already get the key leaderboard you guys were talking about?
The leaderboard.
That's
is
on the other
added.
list.
Yeah, exactly, I'm on the other list now. Yeah.
who's on the Mill Creek board, Mayor?
So, I'm attending that. Karen, you want to be an alternate?
I'll
there?
be your alternate.
Okay. And then Karen and Chief are serving on the key leaderboard, and I'm their alternate for that. I wanted to ask about CAST and the Mountain Pact. I mean, I guess the Mountain Pact is kind of a,
Isn't really
It's
meetings.
not really,
it's not really a
meet.
thing.
It just-
But CAST is, and having one person designated to be part of CAST.
I've been super interested, but now that our budget has been cut, I'm just not knowing how feasible it is to go to the CAS meetings.
I do think they are really good, like, in terms of all the meetings I've been to with other communities who share our issues, where you can walk into the room and like 95% of the people will have the same issues with you as opposed to, maybe 20. They're really great that way, but maybe we can figure out with our budget how somebody can go to a few and especially people who haven't had a chance to go to one. Like, I mean, Kaylin and I have been to them and David Everett had been to them, but if you or you guys, want to take the chance to go to one, I think, you can look at them. Like, you don't need to go to the Colorado legislative one, but
But if we
there's
have
some
one
other
designee,
ones.
that'll save
Yeah,
money
you can
too.
look at the agenda and
rotate
see.
I think that would,
Yeah.
Yeah,
think
so
that's
who's going to
better.
do CAST for this year?
They
rotate
meet
it
like
in
4
terms of-
times a year.
They only
Yeah.
meet.
Oh, like
Yeah,
who goes
I mean, I
to
think you
which?
could,
Yes.
yeah, you could like assign one person, maybe they can take responsibility for looking at the agendas and, see if it looks like a good meeting, and then
Karen,
they
do you want to do that?
talk to other members.
It's
and-
Colorado.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
honestly, sometimes the agendas aren't that good, or it just seems more expensive
So
to go to.
Karen
and
will
skip
be
that one.
CAST, and then we won't do an alternate because you'll,
we'll just, yeah,
Okay.
talk to everybody.
what else was on there? Oh, so we added the resource.
And then for some reason on the document that is published, the transit authority
yeah.
is off of it in my
Huh.
notes. I don't know what happened to
That
it.
should be on there.
Which one was that?
Transit authority.
Is that the ad hoc committee? Because
Well,
I
it's
believe
not-
that's turning into a county, official county.
That's what our last meeting was, and it's not ad hoc. Ad hoc is you meet when you want. It meets monthly. So
What's it called?
the transit authority,
Of,
but
Just
it didn't finish.
okay.
That's
Transit
it.
Authority Board. But it is quite a few county members who show up to it.
So let's add it, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want an alternate?
Anybody who's interested in transportation, come on.
Caitlin, it is.
Great. Okay, are we missing anything else?
Interested in
Museum's not on here,
transportation.
but I don't care if
Oh,
it
it's
is
the
or not.
museum.
Oh,
Board.
yeah, the museum.
What's the official name of that? Moab?
Moab.
Okay.
I don't care if it's with an
Moab.
asterisk or another column, but I guess it would help me in the future for the ones that are
I'm gonna go, and I read that.
appointed. Yeah, like especially by the county. If
I'm
we
gonna
could just
go
have a little
through and-
place with, when we expire.
Yep, I'm
with
gonna
some of
go
them.
through and put which ones are appointed by 4-year
Yeah.
terms. That's kind of, I'm gonna put asterisks in on them, and then we'll put when they expire. So all that'll
Okay.
be in there.
Okay.
And then I'll make 2 separate ones. I'll do ones that are the city's list, and then I'll do a master overall, like everything we serve on list.
I would entertain a motion to do all of that, even though we don't have it completed here. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the list of appointees to various boards as has been described this evening.
Thanks, Mike. Is there a second?
A second.
Thanks, Karen. Any final discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Where are we? New business, 7-1, confirmation of mayoral appointment of Ruben Villalpando Salas. You're going to have to help me. To the Planning Commission. Is there a motion?
I move to confirm the mayoral appointment of Ruben, and I'm not even going to attempt it because I'll massacre it, to the City Planning and Zoning Commission effective immediately to replace the appointment formerly held by Jeanette Capel. His term will expire December 31st, 2022. He will be eligible for reappointment at that time.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Karen. Discussion.
Are you sure?
Attend the meetings. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Great, and if we could ask Ruben for the proper pronunciation of his last name, that would be great.
Come on up.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, whatever you say is what counts.
Tell my dad he's got our name wrong.
Emily, Mary,
Yes?
is he our, I know, oh, I can't talk about age, can I?
No. How do you pronounce your name then? Okay. Thank you so much for your interest and willingness to serve on the Planning Commission. I think your insight will be valuable and appreciated for all of the demographic reasons. Okay, moving right along. 7-2, letter of support for the Natural History Museum of Utah statewide marker program in Moab City. Is there a motion?
I move that the Moab City Council approve the
It's just a letter of support.
the letter of support.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie. Discussion, Tony? Anything to say?
No, I think I forwarded the little slideshow to everybody. I think it's a good program for each county to have a designation. And it just is another little commemoration of the Natural History Museum of Utah.
Thanks for all your work on that.
Tawny, can I just confirm, when I was looking through, I think, there was a timeline with, you choose the location, you schedule a visit with Beth, and, you begin your partnership and promo plan. I just didn't know, the city have any, aside from city staff, when it gets laid into the concrete responsibilities there, will the museum do these for promotion and?
The museum will do the promotion.
Okay.
And all that they really needed our support for was because the sidewalk is ours and they have to cut a hole in it. And that was really all that they needed our support for. So if we can let them cut a hole.
Yeah. All right, well, all this.
Actually, and I need to add to that, it's our public works staff that will do it, so.
Thanks, Tony. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 7-3, proposed resolution 7-2020, a resolution of the governing body of the city of Moab declaring certain property owned by the city of Moab as surplus. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to, there are 32 bicycle parts currently in inventory to be donated. The process is complete. So I make a motion to, as required by the state of Utah, what is the recommended motion?
Oh,
To approve
Surplus
the
of property.
resolution.
do you want to start over there?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to allow the city police to give evidence to
It could
the
be
Moab
approving
City Arts.
proposed resolution.
What's that?
Approving proposed resolution.
Where is it? I mean, I'm sorry.
Right here. It's resolution 7.
Well, no, but look at, this is what it,
Yeah, it's not there. Just
it's not.
make it up.
So let's try one more time.
You want me to wing it?
And it's a resolution, so, yeah.
Want me to try? Or do you want to go ahead?
Go for it.
I move to approve designating the proposed bicycle parts as surplus, as noted in the agenda item.
Thank you, Tanya. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Does she need to reference proposed resolution 07 in the motion?
No, that's fine.
Okay, great. I hope the bike parts are put to good use.
Can we ask a question or two?
Yeah.
Just, is the idea, I couldn't tell, is the idea that all 4 designs will be completed, or, you know, kind of pick from the 4?
Could you please come up to the mic so those who are watching online can hear you?
Yeah, so those were just
Just
4,
bring it on up toward you. Valerie.
4 separate designs that were given to us. We haven't really decided which angle is going to work best. It might also just depend on the facility.
Okay, well, they looked very fun. Thank you guys for coming up with that. My only question was about, and I'm sure you guys are very good at finding locations, because I couldn't tell scale. For the drawing of version 3, I just wanted to make sure it was going to be placed somewhere it wasn't a trip hazard, because you know how our tourists especially like to look up here instead of down there. So, and then I guess my only other side question was, when we have surplus bicycles, how do we decide, like, if they're rideable, do we donate them to like a ride program? And if they're not usable, do we use them for
Yes.
art, or kind of a combination?
Yes, if they're, we're not, these are not bikes that are usable.
Okay, well, I definitely knew some of them were parts, so, and I just figured.
Let's hear from the bike auditor herself.
That one doesn't adjust, you just gotta.
Graveyard fodder.
Some of the bicycles are usable, but some definitely are not. There are a list of nonprofit organizations. So
And the ones that are found property are the ones that we surplus and give away.
found
Some of these ones that are usable in this are technically evidence that are required for destruction, so they're not really surplus, but we threw them in because
Yes,
we're going
thank
through
you.
the process.
Okay.
So that's the difference in this
You
one.
know, something just to add to, we do have the reduce, reuse
Yeah.
residency also coming up. So the hope is too that any other pieces and parts that we could use. So we will put them to as much use as possible.
Okay. Do you want us to bring stuff from our garage?
No, I think we have
All
plenty.
right, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
and I'm happy to take them.
No problem. Can we, like, trim that cord, somebody? Thank you. No worries. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Summer. 7-4. Rachel is not here. She had to leave early. And it appears that we have a couple of items to add to this capital improvements project list. So what we can, sure, Joel.
So what we've done is we've created the capital projects list, and this was the matrix that we brought to you guys a while ago. We've pulled together several members of staff that include myself, Carly, Rachel, the city engineer, the public works director, the public works supervisors. There's about 10 of us when we all get together. And we rate and rank all these projects based off of that. In the past, we've kind of had some issues with one personality could drive projects and one personality could maybe get things to be built that maybe weren't the top of the list of what we should have been doing. So we've tried to create this committee type setting where we're rating and ranking these with a group so one person can't drive a dialogue. The other thing we're doing is it will be like a capital improvements project. This will also be like capital facilities planning. It will be brought to you when it needs modified. It will be brought to you every budget. It'll be brought to you anytime we want to add a project to it. So this isn't you approve this list and now this is the list. This is you approve this list for us to get started with. With budget coming up and the way our budget looks, odds are before we ever even could build anything off this list, you'll have seen it at least once, maybe 2 or 3 times adjusting it before we ever even start using it as actual playing projects that we're funding.
Thanks for sharing that. Rachel asked that we table it
Oh,
for this
okay.
evening because she wants to add a couple things to the list and present it at our next meeting.
And the 2 things we added before this meeting were just things we've been working on that when we put the packet out just weren't quite ready. They weren't things that we were trying to like get to you because we thought they were more or less important. We just, while we were getting it approved, we were going to add them while we could. And we may do that again if we're going to table it in 2 weeks and bring it back. There'll probably be another 2 or 3 things that you'll see on there before you see it again.
Yeah.
I make a motion to table this
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Tawny.
This list.
Thank you,
A
Tawny.
little more discussion.
Thank you for the second, Ronnie. When there's a motion to table, there is no discussion. Mike, I apologize. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. We can follow up after the meeting about that with your question. And we're at 7.5, proposed resolution 6/2020, a resolution expressing opposition to Bureau of Land Management oil and gas leases near the Sand Flats Recreation Area and on the City of Moab's sole source aquifer. Carly?
Yes. So as you are aware, the BLM's June 2020 statewide oil and gas lease sale has identified 2 parcels that are in the Sand Flats Recreation Area and sit on Moab's sole source aquifer. Up for your consideration is a resolution outlining the city's concerns and opposition pertaining to the potential leasing of these parcels as the development threatens the city's water supply and tourism economy. So just one note, if you are interested in approving this resolution, I recommend as staff that you amend it to add an additional point, specifically that you not only oppose the leasing of the parcels, but you also resolve to have them removed from consideration altogether. And I have that language that can be added if there is.
Do you mind just reading it so
Yeah.
that it's on the record?
So it would be, I think, nestled like third from the bottom when it comes to and it would be it further resolved that the City of Moab calls on the BLM to remove any parcels within the Sand Flats Recreation Area from consideration in the oil and gas lease sale.
Thank you for adding that language. And thanks for putting together the resolution.
Yeah, good job.
When I spoke with the county chair, Mary McGann, it is her intention to bring this, a similar resolution in front of the county. And then we also discussed writing a joint letter with the resolutions attached, just expressing what the resolutions say. It's a water thing, it's a water issue, and it's a recreation issue.
Yes. And in terms of process too, the process is a little unusual. So there's not a public comment at this point. That starts February 20th. Meantime, what we'd be urging is the governor or other representatives to have it pulled altogether before it goes into an EA or an environmental assessment. But in the event that it doesn't, we would then participate via comment and engaging with BLM. But just so like BLM isn't taking comments right now, but might be at some point.
And I think it's worth it to mention that this particular area is our Sand Flats Bike Trail. Yeah. And there are a lot of places where oil and gas development really fit with the landscape, and this is just probably not one of them.
Carly, can I just clarify that I heard you right? So on the extra be it further resolved, so that's just stating nothing in Sand Flats. Is there any reason one would say nothing in Sand Flats or over the sole source aquifer? I mean, in other places,
it
or I don't know
includes
that.
it.
Okay,
So the
great.
parcels are contained within the Sand Flats.
Yeah.
And it's really just, we're saying, not only do we oppose it, we want it, that's removed totally from consideration.
I'm
So
willing
it modifies it a little.
to make a motion to adopt resolution 6/2020 expressing opposition to Bureau of Land Management oil and gas leases near the Sand Flats Recreation Area and on the City of Moab sole source aquifer, with the addition of the added be it further resolved statement that Carly just read for us.
Thank you, Ronnie. Is there a second?
A second.
Thanks, Tawny. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. 7.6, proposed pre-annexation agreement among Lionsback Holding LLC and the City of Moab, located at approximately 938 and 940 South Main, Moab, Utah 84532.
So I put up on the screen a map, and it's just Google Earth, where you can see I've pinned the location of this property. We provided you a map inside your packet as well, but so those in the audience can see what we're talking about. This is a proposal from the Lionsback Holding LLC, who are currently an applicant with the county and are constructing a hotel in the county. This property, as you can see here, is adjacent to the city boundary, and they have come to the city and they have petitioned the city that they be allowed to annex into the city boundaries and become members of the City of Moab. We have had contact with the county. I've talked to the county attorney, and we also received a letter today from the chair of the county council, and the county council has indicated that they are in support of the annexation and would support the action that we're taking here tonight if we chose to annex this property into the city in a future date, as this is just an annexation agreement that would proceed that action. So I'm happy to field any questions. I'm sure there's several.
Well, is there a motion to approve?
I will move to approve the pre-annexation agreement between Lions Back Holding LLC and the city of Moab, located at 938 and 940 South Main, Moab, Utah, 84532.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
I would second.
Thanks, Karen. Discussion?
Joel, first of all, when I look in the packet, the map has a different parcel outlined. So which one should I be looking at?
The map that I have in your packet is the same.
Maybe I'm having a dyslexic moment.
Yeah,
and
the
it's
pin's
somehow-
kind of on the very fringe of it here. This is the parcel here.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the green outline up there, and that
Oh,
was
no,
throwing
no,
me.
I don't know
'cause I was
what,
like, I
don't look
think
at that.
it's-
That's,
Oh.
look at this pin here, the
That's like
LBH
the
pin.
campground.
That's the campground.
You're scaring me. I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh,
You
no,
got the
no,
wrong map?
and I thought for a second you said you outlined it, so I heard you wrong. I'm like, but wait, that's a
I
different outline
outlined it
than what
here
I
in this
have.
one, so.
Um,
The project is, I cannot remember, what's the number of rooms that are in the project? Around 120. So it is a 120 room project. It is in the county currently. The application is with the county. If for some reason you do or do not pass this, if you chose not to pass this, then it would be built in the county is where we're at with this project. And the county, I think, supports the idea because whether it's in the city or in the county boundaries, they would receive the same TRT. They'll receive the same property tax. It's not affecting in a negative way towards their coffers whatsoever.
And that's why
So-
we have the letter of support from
Yep.
the Grand County Council.
Obviously, if we annex it in, then it's a hotel that's coming, despite everything else that we've done in the last year. And in that scenario, we would get TRT from it, and we would receive sales tax from it as well.
And they're vested, so they just.
They are in this gray area of vested, and that's the issue that we have, and that's kind of why this one's a weird one. To be vested, you have to be solid vested, you have to have an application. If you don't have an application, if you've done nothing, then you have nothing. Then there's this in-between area that if you haven't filed an application, but you've relied upon the zone, you've purchased the property, you've taken significant cost in preparing your property, like engineering substantial amounts, if that was the case, you can make an argument that you're vested even if you haven't filed the application, and that's where this one falls. It's and we were concerned when we filed the moratorium back in February of 2018 that there would be several of these that were in there, and this is the only one that's come forward in the year that we've been dealing with this. We've only had one come forward and actually make a claim that they're vested despite not having an application filed prior to February 12th, 2018.
But we would be moving forward as if they are vested.
Yeah, this would settle that lawsuit claim and that action that could be pending against ourselves or the county, depending on how you wanted to look at it.
Is there any further deliberation?
Yeah, I have a bunch of questions, Joel, just because I was confused and I was reading this, and sorry, I was getting confused by the map at the beginning, so I'm going to apologize if you already explained this. Let's see. We haven't done a lot of pre-annexation agreements. We have done some, but I'm not sure they were like this. So the first thing that was confusing to me is there's this language that refers to approving the pre-annexation agreement after all necessary public hearings and procedures have been conducted. So that was the first thing that confused me. Are we supposed to be having a public hearing and stuff?
No, what's that referencing? So this document that we're using is one that the city's used before. I've had several other ones that I've used, but I used one that you guys were familiar with, so I went and pulled one of your old ones and built it off of that. The pre-annexation agreement, it would have to follow, if you approve the pre-annexation, any annexation that came would still have to follow the public procedure, the public noticing, public hearing, all of that process going forward before that annexation would be approved.
Can you just restate for me if you already did, or if we haven't gotten there, what are kind of conceived as the pros and cons of the city doing the pre-annexation agreement, and then also what the if you can just, sorry to make you restate, but sometimes
No.
it helps for me and maybe the public, what this legally obligates us to. Because as I was reading it, I started getting myself really confused. Like, am I signing on, if I approve the pre-annexation agreement, am I saying within 2 years I will annex this? I got a little confused. It was 1 or 2 parcels, but I will annex these and they will be C4 and they will be vested for this use. I just am trying to make sure I'm clear.
Okay. Hold on, yes, several questions. I
Sorry.
want to make sure I get them all. The pros and cons to annexation in a general sense, and then I'll talk more of this one in that perspective. But obviously, anytime you're annexing as Moab City, it's a little bit different than annexing as other cities. We don't have a property tax. So in our situation, it's not really ever in our advantage to annex residential zones. We're not collecting a property tax. We're just then at that point paying to take care of them. And so we tend to not want to annex residential zones. They just cost money, basically. So we tend to try and focus towards commercial zones if someone approaches us or we go out trying to annex something, because commercial zones, we can collect TRT and we can collect sales tax. So that's where we tend to focus our annexation attention. In this scenario, it's all commercial zone. It's a hotel has its application with the county. It's going to be built. It's coming. Right now, it's right on literally, it's abutting our boundary. And so it's coming in to the county and we're not going to get any benefit, and it's right on our city boundary. So if we annex, the benefit to us is that we are going to collect TRT and sales tax. The downfall in a scenario like this, obviously we have to provide services once we annex something. Our law enforcement would be responding. We would be providing any snow removal up to that point and things like that. So those are the normal pros and cons. As far as the zone is concerned, when you set an annexation agreement and you set a zone based off of that, that's a part of the negotiation. This council has the authority to agree to that zone as a part of your motion to adopt this agreement, or you have the authority to change that zone if you're more comfortable with it being the resort zone that's more on the northern end of town, down on this end as well, starting out kind of where these hotels have kind of popped up on the south end. So if you wanted to, you could, as a part of your motion, change the zone as a requirement of the annexation agreement. And obviously, that's a change of term, and that would be up to the applicant if they wanted to accept that.
I will point out that, and I have it pulled up if you want me to dongle over, but that it does fall within our general plan's future annexation boundary.
Yeah,
so accepting this petition is within our general plan.
As far as our general plan and our annexation plan, like, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
And I actually want to have future meetings with the county and just clean up and honor the future annexation map that we've been staring at for years and years, and have some tough conversations about where that southern border truly ends.
Yeah, as far as our general plan and our annexation plan goes, this is exactly the type of parcel we would want to annex. It's directly abutting our property. We don't have to create a contiguous boundary to the city. We don't have to draw a stem like we've done to other annexations. It's right up against us already. We're not taking in a bunch of other people. It's all commercial. There's tax revenue to be gained. It would support itself as far as the services we're providing. It's pretty pro-heavy as far as an annexation goes for the city, as far as the benefits.
Okay, and sorry, I think the next part of my question was that question of what this legally obligates us to. Like, are we, did I read that right? Yeah, about.
So it does outline a general format as to where we're at and what the guidelines would be of what's expected of them. Obviously, if the annexation agreement's agreed to, then the annexation comes back before you. That would then have to be approved, as this would require you to do. But then as the development continues to go forward, those plans would come to you for approval, and those discussions would hammer out more in detail as to what exactly we're looking at.
Any final discussion?
Yeah. Okay. Let me just skim here. I don't think it really matters, but just so I'm using the correct singular or plural, is this one lot or two? Or I got confused since it has 2 addresses. Yeah.
It's 2. One is, if I can zoom in here, you can see the parcel lines. And so you have this one here. And that hasn't been updated as far as the owner. And oh, excuse me, I clicked the wrong one.
So we're basically
Egress and
across
ingress.
from the grazing fields,
Yeah.
and that's the Maverick.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
Maverick
gotcha.
here.
Okay.
And this is the end of Dock Allen,
Mhm.
right here, and I think this is the Snow property. And this is the Henry Shaw property there, which is a vested hotel that's already in city limits that was pre-moratorium vested, hard vested, not lawsuit potentially vested.
And then, just so I'm clear too, so vested under the county now, under their new overlay, the city hasn't written its, agreed upon its standards. We're just in the RC zone, and we haven't made it, assuming this became C4, we haven't made it to the C4, but so it would just be grandfathered, vested.
Under the agreement that under the county application.
Okay. And let's see.
And under this agreement, the terms of this agreement.
Okay. Can someone explain to me the part of the document that talks about reserved legislative powers? I did not understand that part.
You need to, what paragraph are you looking at?
Here, I can tell you. I mean, I kind of understand it, but I thought I should understand it better. Hold on.
Page 3?
Yes, bottom of page 3, item 4 4 actually. But I guess it was just paragraph 4.2, reserved legislative powers. I was just trying to make sure I understood that.
So we're legally, as a legislative body, we have policing authorities, land use, police powers, those. What that's saying is the parties acknowledge the city is restricted in its authority to limit its police powers by contract and its limitations, reservations, and expectations set forth herein and intended to reserve to the city those police powers that cannot be so limited. It's basically saying that if somewhere in this agreement we've limited ourselves in a way that's illegal, that was unintentional, and we would reserve that authority.
Thank you. Okay. So you're saying if one wasn't sure about C4, this would be the time before you approve the pre-annexation agreement to determine if somehow another zone was appropriate?
Yeah, it would, well, it's not required, it's preferred. It's easier than
Gotcha.
doing a zone change at a later date.
I guess my only thing, since this is the first time I'm seeing this, is I would personally, and nobody has to agree with me, prefer to table so I could get a map that showed me the zoning of surrounding properties. And I understand it's zone general business now, so if maybe someone could get me a list of uses under general business along with the C4, only because we've made in my opinion, mistake before of annexing without looking at neighboring zoning. And to me, that's just on my checklist of things I have to check off when I look at surrounding.
So, and I just pulled that up there, and this doesn't give you the list, which is not everything you asked for, but this here is C4 next to it. These are all C4 into the street. And so we've just matched it in the application. I felt like maybe the resort zone was maybe a better zone for what we're doing, but I went with C4 because it was a match to the surrounding properties and the uses that had historically always been there. So there's the motion's on the table, but was the logic behind that.
I mean, if we were looking at a resort zone, this would be the only parcel.
What's on the other side?
There's nothing on the other side, it's in the county. I don't know what the county
And
zones are.
I respect that thinking and that process, because that is contiguous.
Yeah, so this is currently the city boundary.
Right.
And that's why when I click that city zoning highlight, nothing pops up out here, it's not our zoning.
Yeah, but before the city has put a C4 next to a rural residential, so that's kind of why I asked.
Well, my guess is, and I mean, I don't know if this is rural here, but this isn't rural here. Like, we're not changing a rural use to go next to a rural use. This is clearly was industrial or something at some point. It was a shop. So, I'm happy to do it however you guys want to proceed.
I have one question, if you're done.
Well, sure.
So under 3.2 standards, the word different standards, the project will do this and that, will do this and that, and the word will is used extensively as opposed to shall? Does that, when it comes at a time when council has to evaluate whether the developer has made a sincere effort to do maximum feasible kinds of things, is the absence of the word shall construed as a less constrictive word? In other words, does will?
No, it's the same. There's no difference in that.
Have any?
There's no wiggle room in will.
Have any impact fees been paid
To us, absolutely not.
to the county? No, right?
I have no idea.
So impact fees would be, like, we would be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
It's-
have you guys paid impact fees to the county yet? No, because they haven't got to the point where they're breaking ground and getting permits. I mean, that's their application's in and all their plans and everything's into the county for review, and that's where the process they're in. So at the point they were actually getting permitted, that would come to the city.
any other discussion? We have a motion on the table. And unless there's any further discussion. Ronnie, did you want to say anything else or have any other questions?
No.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
It's on the motion to table.
No, this is a motion, the motion that is on the table. I apologize. I understand why that's confusing. The motion is to approve. So I will call for the motion again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And nay.
And I am a type-breaking vote, and so I vote in favor of the petition.
So I would have a roll call. I would ask for a roll call vote just because of who's voting. So
Okay, so
Karen. Oh, sorry, Mayor.
Karen, sorry, aye.
Tawny?
Yes.
Myself, Mayor, aye. Mike?
Nay.
Ronnie?
Nate.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. Moving on, Section 8, approval of the bills against the city of Moab.
I move to approve the bills in the amount of $411,314.39.
Thanks, Tawny.
I'll second.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any fun bills to discuss?
Did we buy any widgets?
Fund bills. There was some, what was? There's a lot of fun stuff in here, but I don't know what some of it is.
I liked when Ronnie did the smallest bill back in the day.
25-cent hardware is always fun.
Our Amazon expenditure was a little,
Did it go up again, or is it still down?
it went up last month, so I kind of checked the things that I'm pretty sure we can obtain locally. Sticky notes, hand warmers, sanitizer, lotion.
Well, the best hand sanitizers on Amazon, but no, I'm just teasing. Okay. Sticky notes.
So we're going to give the list with all the checks. There are more than just 3 checks.
Yeah, will you just provide me a copy of that? And
I
I'll follow
will,
up with
I
it
will. I mean, there, highlighters, there's some stuff on here I'm pretty sure we can't get locally.
So we're
but
doing good, but we can do better.
We are doing, yeah, we're doing better than we were, but we can still do better.
Okay.
So you'll give the do better list to Joel?
I will,
and he
I will
can
get you a do better
tomorrow
list
morning
on
report back?
Friday. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Thank you, Mike. A second?
Second.
Ooh, tie. Tawny, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.